I think it might be the guy
Have you
with
heard
the
Lori?
construction meeting. Was he at the one meeting in, I keep having the guy when we were at Pace High? There was a gentleman, bigger gentleman that was talking about, I don't know, some construction I can't see that's part of the bond. I don't know if that's him or not. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm guessing.
Okay. Okay. Welcome. And I do understand we do have a quorum of board present on this June 20th, 2022 meeting. And I believe Megan Zampier-Lilpop is joining us via Zoom. Correct, Jess? Chris.
Is she present?
Either she's there. Yep.
Can she hear us okay?
Hang on, let me check my volume. It looks like she's not.
I can hear her.
Okay, I'll get that turned up so you can hear her better.
I'm not able to hear, but if other people can, then.
I just heard it slightly.
It's not very
Okay.
good.
Or, I guess, Megan, if you hear me, you can always type something for Chris or text Jess to get our attention.
I bet we can hear you now.
Try that again.
Go the right way. All right. Megan, can you try talking one more time?
Said her earlier, but not
I
well.
don't hear her now at all.
We did hear that. Confirmation on,
We can always do it by phone. I mean, she can be on Zoom.
if she can,
and then
yeah,
she
or if she,
Does she have,
if she can hear and then somehow get,
but if she wants to talk, she could talk through phone. We
Yeah.
can just,
and she now has Ron and Jess's cell phone, so I'd advise her that way. I'm gonna go ahead, while you're working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and continue. So, again, please adjust your mics, and at this point, we'll help Lori can join us. Our agenda has been posted on the board docs, which is a link on our USD 489 website. I make a motion to accept the agenda as written. Do I have a second?
I have,
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion about the agenda?
yeah, I have several. I didn't receive this board agenda till 5:30 after I sent an email. I think we're on schedule, working Monday through Thursday. I got it at 5:30. I can't get through all this to be prepared.
5:30 when on Friday?
Friday's finally got it after I sent an email out. I would like to be able to read this. Personal transactions didn't show up till today. I tried to read them last night. If I have questions and have to look for answers, and I work all day on Monday, I don't get them till 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I have not read anything that I had asked for or had time to prepare. So I would appreciate if we could get that out a little earlier. I know that the policy says 3 days, but 5:30 on Friday, after I had texted somebody, it popped up about 20 minutes later. Wasn't on there until then.
I'm not sure.
I have a question. When you prepared the agenda, did you prepare it on Thursday or Friday?
We met on Thursday, and I know I reached out to
Yeah.
Jess
Yeah,
on Friday.
I met with Ron and
The three of
Tammy
us
on
met.
Thursday, but that is not finalizing it. That's just going over. I know there's a lot of things from personnel
Yeah,
transactions to other things that are added later after we leave.
But I understand that. But as they're updated, can't you update them? And, I mean, then I pull it up again and it's updated. At least I'm not starting from scratch.
You
So,
usually
anyway,
need-
that's-
We're usually getting it earlier on Friday. I know this
Yeah.
was a rare case.
I understand
this
it,
Friday.
but if I work Friday, I read it at 5 o'clock, I'm asking people for information, so I'm better informed and they don't have access to those people till Monday. I work Monday till 4:35, meetings at 6:30, that doesn't work very well.
And through the
If
summer,
I want to
no
be
one's
prepared
here
for
on
today.
Friday.
Well,
That's a
like-
concern I have, one of,
Do we,
so,
okay,
anyway.
so,
I just want to know if that's something we can do to prove that.
The agenda is always constantly being worked on, so we've sent it out Friday, and it depends on when we get it done. I mean, it's the way it is.
Well, honestly, the 5:30's an oddity. It has been 3 or so, or earlier, so.
I understand. It's hard to be prepared if you were going to ask somebody for questions and you work. So,
And we used to have 7 days, so it'd be nice if we could get it, even pieces of it, like I'm sure the handbooks were prepared way before Thursday, that you got to talk about them. So some of those things, if we can get them, even the minutes, we can get those, get a pre-draft or something, so we can kind of have an idea of what's coming up in the meeting, and we can talk to the people who we need to. I agree with that. I wish we could.
I
improve that
think
somehow.
ideally it ought to be 4 days, and then you could, that gives you Friday, you could look at it Thursday and then ask questions, and you would have time to think about it. The way it sets now, it's not convenient or conducive to a good thought, if you work. I'll continue on. I submitted 5 agenda requests, like I was told to follow policy. I see none are on tonight's agenda, is that correct?
well, I know we've had correspondence between, and I shared with you that we were looking at a different meeting. I believe you objected to that, and so, as I shared, you can make those requests today.
Okay,
Right now.
and I asked for the one about Mr. Wilson in the email on April 22. I asked for a special meeting. It got denied the last meeting. I don't see it's on tonight. And you informed me that it won't be on the next board meeting, because I don't know if that's full or not.
No, I haven't. Some
And
of
they-
those items I said were going to be on the
Going to
board
be
agenda.
on the retreat. I thought a board retreat would be a retreat, not a business meeting. Two of the ones that I asked for, I would hopefully have legal counsel. If we're doing that at 9 in the morning or 9:30 in the morning, I don't think Mr. Jeter's going to be there for legal counsel. And
Would you like to
this-
make a
This
motion to
item just
add
keeps
a-
getting pushed down the road or swept under the rug, and there's all kinds of stuff out there. He's not been
Kurt, you have the
exonerated.
ability
He's not
to
been
go ahead.
exonerated.
Do I have a motion on the
Yes, I
table?
would like to go into
Okay.
executive session with the school board members and Mr. Jeter tonight to
Okay.
discuss
Thank you.
the April 22 email and the things that have been
I'll just-
accused of.
If you're going to talk about personnel,
It's executive session, is what you just asked.
Yeah. I don't want to do it out here in the open, no.
So-
But I just want the board members and Mr. Jeter. That's my
Okay.
motion.
So we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on that motion to add to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. And I'm assuming, again, we have Megan able to vote on this if she,
I have one comment. I agree with Mr. Viner. That was in April, and we have not, as a board, discussed this at all. I know I requested back in the end of,
and let me just be clear, since both of you have said that you've requested, to have a special meeting, it takes 3. I, as the board president, do not, by legal counsel, not with Jeter, but with KASB, advised me that I am not to send an email asking if other board members want to have a special meeting. So I was within my role as president. There was not a third person coming forward, so at that point, that is why a special meeting did not occur. So at this point, you have the right to add it to the agenda. That is your wish. We have a motion on the table. I'd like to
Madam
call for a
President, I
vote.
also read that if I would email and ask other board members if they would call for the meeting, then it's a violation too, because you cannot make it a chain.
Well, I'm
that I
the
read.
same way,
I
so we
can't do
both
that
are
either.
following the
So we
law.
have board members
Congratulations.
that are not aware that this is a concern of others.
I believe that every board member besides you two have contacted Ron directly. So that was how others were getting information. So I can't control what I can't control. I'm just telling you what I legally followed. So
it's
at that
discussion,
point.
correct?
Excuse me?
it is discussion.
Well, it can be discussion as long as we're not in attack mode. So discuss away.
Okay, thank you. I just think that we need to have an opportunity to talk to our council.
Okay.
I also talked to KSB and the what they ask of me is maybe, because we was right during the middle of bond, and I understand that, and I was under the impression, same with Mr. Viner, is that, okay, at the next meeting, we would have it on executive session, we would talk. This discussion would be out here right now if we would just went into discussion, an executive, and then we could find out answers, because when I get my information from the paper articles and social media, I would prefer to get it from my leadership. And I did not get I got a response from my text, but
I could not, just so you are aware, I could not. I would be breaking, I am advised not to email all of you. So that I too, so if you're saying me as leader, I could not let you know. Now, if it's in this board meeting, we'll be able to talk about an executive session if that passes.
okay, I think I'm going to support this and vote, and I hope the rest of the board would have the opportunity to want to talk about this too. And I hope that we can at least get this addressed instead of going on another month or 2 months like it has been.
Okay, the only thing with this discussion is, I know I've talked to Kurt several times, ever since the email that was in question that has been brought up, my direct response, and it's, I know he's gotten tired of hearing me say it, have you gone in and talked to Ron? Have you gone in to talk to Ron? Have you gone in? And that is the way you say you don't have information. I feel like he works for us, so I go in and I find out information. I don't do it during a meeting. I want to go in and get information so I know the background. And I don't know, I just feel like that's my due diligence, that I don't wait till, as Kurt said, it's hard for him to do anything the Monday right before a board meeting, but I've done it over the past several weeks with that, trying to get that information so I was educated in what had happened, what was going on in the community and different things. So maybe that's just me. But that's one way I do it.
That is the one legal way that we can communicate and do so without breaking the Kansas Open Meetings Act. So I would highly encourage you both to be able to do that as well. But we have a motion on the table, and I think at this point, it's time to go ahead and take the request for a vote. And again, is Megan on?
We just did a restart. She was able to hear most of that and try to get it back.
Is she able to vote? Because
I can call her.
Yes.
So,
Got her.
Megan, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to go into executive session to discuss the email sent out by Ron on April 22nd, and it will be all board members and Bill Jeter. Is that the correct motion? Okay, it's been seconded and motioned. Do I have all those in approval of adding that to the agenda? Please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please state nay.
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 Nay. Okay, motion does not pass. Did you have other items
Yeah.
than Kurt?
The other one, item that I requested was number 2 about the TMP ball field and stuff. I would like to see that one at a regular meeting, as again, we probably would ask Mr. Jeter for some legal counsel on that one, not move to a board retreat.
Do you want it on tonight's?
No,
Okay.
as long as it's discussed. Okay, we continue on. I don't know if this is the right way, but on 6.8, underneath, we're discussing request for approval of classified directors and administrative personnel raises. I'd like to separate classified to a separate one and directors and administrators to a separate line, so they're not clumped together.
I would assume then that would be a motion to separate that.
Is that how you, is that at this
Let's
time?
go ahead and do that.
Is that at this time?
I second it.
Can you, so,
Yeah, I'll try.
Basically, it'd be
On
a-
6.8, I'd like to separate, it says, where it would say request for approval for classified, that's a separate line, and then request for approval of directors and administrator personnel rates is a separate one, so they're not together. It's the same, it's not going to be the same vote for all of those. It's
I'm
a separate
assuming
vote.
that doesn't change your second, Alan. So assuming
Okay.
that's seconded.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion on that request?
Yes, I want to call a request for approval of classified personnel raises for 22-23 at 6.8, and then another one 6.8B, I guess. Request for approval of directors and administrative personnel rates for 22-23. I want to separate them so it's not a single vote. We're voting on two different things.
Got it, Jess? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those,
Well, I have another one.
Oh.
We're voting on this one?
but still on that one,
Do
6.8?
we have to vote on it?
Yeah, we would.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so all those in favor of pulling those two apart, please state aye and vote electronically the same way.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, I'm assuming
I have one
Megan-
more.
Megan's
Madam-
on that, so that passed. Okay, you got that. All right?
Okay, Madam President, on the consent agenda 2.4, the 22-23 USD 49 Board of Education calendar, I have a quick question. If not, then I would like for it to be pulled. I see that it's
Do
just...
we need to just wait till the, we'll
Oh,
get
we
to
gotta
Just
wait for
ask
that
the
one?
que-
So
just ask the
consent
question.
agenda is a sec,
Yeah.
you can ask a question
Yeah,
now,
just
I
ask the
guess.
question.
I'll just wait,
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
What he's talking.
with that, those changes, then any other recommendations, just the overall agenda? Not, we'll get to the consent.
Madam President, I understand that we have an executive session on our, but we don't have anything set to go into executive session.
No,
Since
now we will, but we don't. I think those are just, those notes just remain in there because it's the it's the
Okay.
language. So there was not anything in
Well, I would like to
executive session.
move this 6.8 and the directors and administration after the executive session. And then I would like to have a executive session for talking about directors and administrative salaries, because we've not done that as a board. We have got a lot of information, but we've not really discussed it and been able to ask a lot of questions, and that probably should be done in executive session.
If we're talking about personnel, this will be a legal counsel question. If we're talking about just, if it's our evaluation, which we've already had, that would go into executive session. Would this go into executive? I guess I'm not sure what would be protected in,
It depends on what the nature of the conversation. If you're talking about a specific administrator and what their raise might be, then you can do that in executive session. If you're talking about the overall percentage increase for every administrator, then that needs to be done in an open session.
so I guess then that would be, we would need to know who specifically we're going
So you
into
can
executive session for?
Discuss it in the executive session and then come out and vote on it and discuss on what we
You
done.
can discuss in executive session any specific administrator and what their increase should be. You cannot go into executive session to discuss generally what the percentage increase should be for every administrator.
Got
So,
it.
in other words, you're going, the one is kind of a policy decision on what the increase ought to be for everybody. The other one gets into personnel.
That makes sense.
About a specific person.
But in certain situations, it's, I mean, once you talk about, it might be isolated on a couple because of the differences. So I guess it would need to be, that part needs to be talked about in executive session.
You should have.
Am I wrong? All these, none of these are individual, all these are everybody.
Well, that we
That's
need to
the
talk about
proposal
the
at hand.
percentages.
Yes.
And we could talk about them there, but some of the percentages are different. And I'm talking about what we've done in the past and where we've,
I would still say, though, that's probably open session.
and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And so you could talk about it, but we have a certain administrators, the only one administrator, so how are you going to talk about that one?
You're talking now.
If, on the certain percentages.
Well, you're going to have to talk about every administrator, whether it's as a group or individually, as to what percentage they should get.
Well, when we go into executive session for teachers, and we talk about salaries, that's done in executive session.
that's a whole different executive
negotiations.
session.
Topic.
provision. And
It's
that's
talking
what
about
you guys are
salaries.
talking about negotiations.
And I know we don't negotiate with administrators, but we do make that decision based on fairness or however we.
Well, again, teachers is a whole different thing. That's, you're required to negotiate with the teachers who are allowed to form a union. Any negotiations with the teachers, any discussion that the board has can be done in executive session. You don't have to. It needs to be done in executive session short of when you actually approve the master collective bargaining agreement.
Tell them it'll be 200.
Administrators is a whole different thing. That comes under personnel. So if you're not talking about a specific administrator,
Yeah.
what their increase ought to be, as opposed to talking about everybody, general increase for all, that has to be done in open session. If there's a specific administrator which you think shouldn't get that same increase, that can be a discussion that can be had in executive session. Because you're talking about a specific individual or a personnel matter.
Okay.
And in order to protect that person's privacy rights,
You should do it in executive
you should
session.
do that in executive session.
So the motion, does the motion have to indicate who the person is or just personnel in general? Okay.
Just personnel, like we do other personnel.
A person.
Keep in mind what the focus needs to be in executive session.
Okay.
And one of my obligations as school board attorney is to make sure when you go into executive session is that you follow the rules and don't get off track.
So
If you
it would
do, you may
be,
get a reminder from me that you're discussing something that can't be discussed in executive session.
and I would include you in that discussion.
That's assuming I get a command.
Yeah.
That's entirely your discretion, whether I
Which is
get
good.
in executive session.
So I guess at this point, Alan, do you have a motion?
Yes, I would like for us to go and discuss, because there are individuals,
Can you actually state the motion you want to make?
I would like to move that when, in our slot for executive session, that we go in and talk about administrative salaries, and there are individual salaries that we need to talk about based on the prior years and what we've done in the past, and so we don't protect their privacy, I think it would be smart to do it in executive session. And then if we make any
Motion's okay.
changes, then we would have to come out with our advice of our counsel to make sure we're doing it correctly.
And so who all will be in that discussion? Who do you want?
The board members and Mr. Jeter.
Not administration.
No administration at this time, because
Okay.
we'll be talking about administration.
Well, the only thing I would say is I would like to be invited, so it's up to your discretion.
So the motion is not to have Ron at this point.
Well,
so-
the administration, because we do,
Or all
we put a lot of
administration,
work
thank you,
into to the salaries, so that would be nonsense to not include us.
So do you want to amend your motion to include administration?
Well, I think maybe we have two executive sessions. We can have a meet as a board, because we have not done that. And then we can then invite the administration in with Jeter. So, but then I don't know, yeah, to protect the people that are involved, it doesn't mean it's the whole group of administration. So maybe we can talk with our council and then, have 10
We
minutes
can
and then
always
invite them.
adjourn and vote another time at that point, couldn't we? Yeah. Can we, once we've approved can we actually add an executive session into the agenda later in the agenda?
Yeah, right now.
Just right now, okay, so, okay, we got the one motion right now with,
Sounds like you want to move, if you're going to have one.
Or
you wanna move it
6.8.
Right before that agenda. You don't want it to be in.
Right, that was a request is to move that agenda item after the executive session.
okay.
Then you come back out of executive session, if you want to have another one, then you have another one. Is that?
So that would be,
Well, that's what I was wondering, but we have to, if we decide we need another executive session when we are in it, but we've already secured the agenda, we have to decide right now if we're adding a second executive session.
Come back out and extend your executive session.
but we have an exec,
And can we extend it to bring in,
Because that'll be for personnel.
I guess at that point, can we bring in the,
Sure.
okay,
Just when you first go into executive session, make it clear that you may call Superintendent
Whoever.
Wilson in
Okay.
later.
Okay, all right. So then I think then your motion stands as requested, and so, and I'm assuming then instead of having, we would just move the executive session. Now, we have to have the executive session
You're
at the
you're
end.
just going to move that behind it, I
Yeah.
guess.
So I guess at this point, is there a second on Alan's?
Second.
Okay, and so further discussion, the one thing that I would just share is, when I hear comments that we haven't discussed it, we have indeed discussed, we've had evaluation of at least our superintendent, and he has evaluated the rest of the administrators and below accordingly. So this would, my concern would be that this executive session would go into performance and not about the actual agenda item is salary. So that would be my concern. Other discussion aspects to this? Okay,
This was
hearing
not,
none.
mine's just on percentages and getting clarification and what we're actually doing and make sure, because you know what we did in the past and we've had some questions about what we've done, and I just want to make sure it's clear.
Which could be done, though. That could be done in regular session, is my point. So,
But not without identifying people.
well, I mean, their salaries are, keep going with, okay. So we've got a motion on the, and second, any other discussion? Let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of adding that, please state aye and vote accordingly.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, state nay,
Nay.
and whatever Megan. So, but I'm guessing that passed. Okay? The motion was to, now do we need to, do we need a motion to move the agenda item down below this executive session?
Yeah, Madam President, I move that we move 6.8 to after executive session.
Well, it'll be now 6.8 or 9, whichever. We're only wanting to move the one agenda item, Jess, that deals with directors and administrative below this executive session. Okay, so 6 point, are we ready to refresh our computer? Okay, okay. So that motion then to move that agenda item 6.9 below this executive session, do I have a second? Second.
Second.
All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, so that has moved. And we're still on the agenda, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because
We
who
haven't
knows?
started the meeting yet.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry, do you want, if we want to remove consent agenda, do you want it now or after?
Consent agenda I'll get to.
Okay.
So any other agenda? Okay, so of all those changes, I would say let's get ready for a vote then for approving the agenda. All those in favor with those changes, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, vote accordingly, and then Jess will tell us when we refresh our computer. But while she's doing that, the consent agenda has been posted publicly as well, and I'd like to make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Madam President?
Well, that's true, let's do that, never mind, I'm going to withdraw my motion. So there are requests for changes.
Yes, I'd like to,
I know Kurt had some questions for clarification regarding the consent agenda. Alan, do you mind if we just ask him, because that may answer yours, if that's okay?
I'll still want to pull it out, because
Okay.
there's a lot more discussion on that item too.
On which one?
2.3, I'd like to pull 2.4, which I think is one that Kurt was talking about, and then 2.7 and 2.9. We could pull those out and discuss those, and they might be real short, but as long as other board members have.
So,
Does he need to ask for each of those individually? Because there's only one of those that I'd say yes to, so.
Yeah, it's not-
no, it just is,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, with those requests out, does that change your,
If we pull it out, I'll ask.
You'll ask it then,
I'll ask
okay.
once at a time.
all right, well, with the elimination of, which one again,
2.3, 4, 7, and 9.
and 9?
Not
Do-
elimination, but to pull them out.
Pull them out. Okay, yeah, sorry for that
Madam
word.
President,
Uh-huh.
so if they don't get pulled out, then do I get that?
They're already pulled
Well,
out.
no.
So they're pulled
Okay.
out, so
Okay.
I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those 4 items pulled out. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
And,
Board members, I'm not able to see my voting yet. Are you able to vote?
No, she's
No,
working on.
they've had so many changes, she hasn't been
Okay.
able to update it. She's just looking at the votes.
do we need to pause for you to catch up, Jess? That is okay? Because you're the legal binding.
Well, 7 o'clock.
Can you pull consent agendas before the board meeting, or has it do it? You could do it before, you have to do it during the meeting. Illegal. That's a.
I don't know that you can do it before. I've just always done it during the meeting.
If 3 more sent in, then they're gonna get pulled anyway.
Pretty much.
I don't know.
So, wait, Kate, just while you're doing that, Jess, Kurt had asked about consent agenda, how KSB had shared as if there is questions for clarification on consent agenda items, we don't have to pull those out
Right.
unless you feel like that would change the vote. You can ask those within the discussion time of consent agenda, but if you request them to be pulled.
Yeah, I just thought if I could email, if the person could email the board president, say, hey, I want pulled 1, 2, 3, 4, prior to this, we wouldn't have to do this. I didn't know, but it has happened during the meeting?
Refresh now, we should be.
Okay, refresh. I would,
I don't know.
I would have probably preferred it to be in this,
Okay, all right.
just for that
Fair
reason, but,
enough.
so go ahead and refresh, get back in, and you should,
Motions and second for the consent.
I seconded.
I made the motion and Kurt consented, or seconded, God. Okay.
Okay, now you should be able to vote online. The changes that Alan.
Okay, so once you have refreshed, does it all look the way it's? So you should have a vote now electronically for the consent
Yep.
agenda. Okay, all right. Moving along. We are looking at, I'm sorry, let me get my bearings as well. So the public forum would actually be at this point. So if there are people in the audience that want to say a few words, I'll go ahead and share is there anybody that wants, okay, so, is there anybody that wants to share? I won't go into the rules. Okay. So no public forum at this point. Ron, it looks like there is a presentation regarding the Hayes High Athletics Hall of Fame, inaugural Hall of Fame, inaugural class, I should say,
Kirk
so.
Maska is gonna give you all the goods here.
Yes, I'm Kirk Maska. I want to thank Ron for inviting me to share information on Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame. We've spent many an evening, the committee, putting this together, and we kind of like to thank the administration for all their help, both at the high school and here at the board office. Renee Booth with the foundation has helped us tremendously, and just kind of go through what we've done so far. The purpose of the Hall of Fame, the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame, will be established to honor former Hayes High School athletes, teams, coaches, administrators, and contributors who have made an extraordinary contribution to Indian athletics. By establishing a Hall of Fame, past athletes, teams, coaches, administrators, and contributors will be honored for their accomplishments and dedication, while future athletes will seek to carry on a rich tradition of excellence of Hayes High School. We started out with the committee. We had one alum from the 40s, one from the 50s, two from the 60s, early 60s, late 60s, early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, 2000s, early and late. We've since lost a couple to health issues, but one of them it was pretty wearing on his 94-year-old, so, but he still contributes, and it's gone really well. So we established a nomination process. We've selected all the criteria for that nomination process. Just real briefly, for an athlete, they must be a graduate of Hayes High School. They're eligible 10 years after their graduation class. And then, when nominations are made, things to consider: letters earned, all-league, all-state, league player of the year, Gatorade player of the year for the state of Kansas, McDonald's All-Americans, all-state teams, all-league teams, just different things like that. Coaches must be inactive for 5 years from the high school, and administrators and contributors, there is no time limit on that. This year, the committee did the nominations. From here on out, there will be, on our website, there will be a nomination form, and anybody can nominate somebody. So hopefully we get a lot more information, and we don't have to do near as much research and digging and fact-finding as we had to do this year. The initial class, the inaugural class, will be the 1944 state championship boys basketball team, the 1953 undefeated football team, the 1954 undefeated football team, the 1989 girls state champion track team, Willard Schmidt, Dale Alexander. Willard Schmidt was a 46 grad, I believe. Dale Alexander, 1959. Jeed Ryder, 1964. Carmen Ginther, 1978. Marla Powell, 1981. And Terry Sargent, also from 1981. Tamara Munch from 2000. Jeff Beaker from 2001. Marcus Watts from 2002. Two coaches, Jim Maska and Bob Kuhn, and athletic director Mike Carr will be in the initial class. It's a pretty big class, and it probably, the next year or two, will probably do a little bit of catching up, and then after that, the class sizes will probably drop into the 5 to 8 range. We've gone through all the hoops and everything. We've got the 503C, the nonprofit, all that taken care of. We're umbrelling under the foundation. And so, like I said, Renee has helped us a lot. Tickets are on sale online. You can go to our website. You can go to Hayes High Hall of Fame Facebook page. There's a link. You can get on Hayes Post. The link's on there also. It's been on for a little over a week now, and we've sold a little over 100 tickets. It's been a kind of a fun process. Meetings tend to run a little long because stories are being told and things that you visiting with people, and they get to telling you stories, and it's pretty interesting, and I think that's going to carry over and make the banquet very, very interesting. I mean, I thought I knew most all the history of Hayes High, and I found out that I have not. I'm learning a lot of things. Let's put it that way. So I don't know if there's anything I've forgotten, but is there any questions that I can answer for you?
So the recipients will get are they going to get a certificate, plaque? What's the plan?
Actually, the recipients are getting, it is an arrowhead. If I would be a little bit more technology smart, I could have brought in a picture of it, but it's like a glass statue with their name and all their, or not necessarily all their accomplishments, but engraving in there, and it's really sharp.
And then, is there going to be a display case or something at the high school where we're going to have their
Okay.
names or
Thank you.
pictures? Because, you know, when
over that.
you travel to other schools, you'll see theirs in their commons area.
Right, and we are not going to do the plaques on the walls and all the way down the gym, and I enjoy going to, Garden City and Great Bend and McPherson and looking at all the pictures and reading the information and stuff, but we're going to do a kiosk in the commons area. Hopefully the new high school has a special place for it, and so it's going to be a touch screen, and, that'll evolve over time, but, so if you want to go up and, and touch on a name, it's going to pull up pictures and information and what their accomplishments were, and, hopefully in 20 years from now, there's a whole slew of names, and you can go through and do what you need, but, we can also put up pictures of current teams, and things can run on that, because it's probably going to be about that size, hopefully, and so that's how we hope to display it and not take up too much space, and something that'll last a long time.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the family, for the athletes that are no longer with us, are you going to have family members there?
The class of 44 has nobody with us, and the guys that are coming back right now from the football teams, one of them was drafted by the Detroit Lions, and he played at K-State, and you look at their pictures and they don't have face masks and all this, and he sounds like he's healthy as can be, but we've gotten a hold of a few, and some are going to try to make it, and it's just, they said 2 months from now my health issues may be this or that, but we do have kids coming back from athletes in those classes, and Willard Schmidt's 3 of his kids will be back to accept his deal, and just now that word is out there, actually, Bill's brother Joe, somebody brought in a bat from the 1953 Old Timers game between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves, and I'm not sure they were the Atlanta Braves then, but they were somewhere, and brought in Willard's bat. The Louisville Slugger with his signature on it, engraved in it and everything, and it was perfect. It was broken and put back together, and the little nails are in there, and so, people are really excited about it, and it's been really positive, and it's been really fun.
And you have a committee of how many, and are you seeking more committee members, or?
And how the committee is working, when we were at 15, it was awful large, and we didn't replace the ones that, one had health issues, and one just said, I'm not going to come anymore, it's just too much, 94 years old, and his mind is sharp as can be, but we're at 12, and what we're going to do is we're going to have 3-year terms, but the first go around, 4 people are going to go 3 years, 4 are going to go 4 years, 4 are going to go 5 years, and then, so there's a little continuity, and then we're going to have 3-year terms from then on.
Great. Well, thank you very much for any other questions or comments?
Kurt, your groups have raised quite a bit of money for
We
this
have?
event. That's what we heard at the foundation meeting anyway. And the foundation, just so the board knows, the foundation's software they're using it so that they can help sell their tickets. So it's a dual purpose. So it's great that software we're going to be able to use for other events.
That the foundation purchased, that
Cool.
is what we're using.
Good.
And it's,
And you sold a lot of tickets, I guess.
right at 100, and we really need to sell 300 to take care of things.
And what was the date of that again? So
The date is August, I want to say August 13th. I've said it so many times, I should know, but it's at the Hilton Garden Inn at Saturday, August 13th, and it's right before fall sports start on that Monday.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for your presentation today. We
So-
appreciate all the work that you and the committee have done.
Get your tickets purchased. Love to see you there.
Very good. Okay, the next agenda item is Ron Wilson, Superintendent's report.
Okay, just give you some quick updates. Summer project, the Hayes High HVAC is going well. It's actually probably ahead of schedule. Lots of demo is been completed. Still have some demos still to complete, but we're getting there. They're running ductwork. They are running gas pipe. They're doing everything. So just feel good about where we're at in that project. Of course, you maybe have noticed if you've driven past O'Laughlin, the windows have been removed. We've got big plywood slabs for windows right now. It's not for a great view. That is hopefully still on track. We just we'll have some more work to do at O'Laughlin with some bricks that is there on site, and those projects will probably start as far as the closing the window space up a little bit. So, and also just I think it's good middle school track. If you've not had an opportunity to drive by the middle school, we've really upgraded that facility. It was probably the worst track in America, and it's a pretty nice. Mr. Alberts has already told me he's faster because of the time on the track today. So it's a good thing. So we got some good things happening, and it's not bond related. These are all just things that we're still continuing to work on.
Is the track done?
Yeah, the track is done at the middle school. They'll now going to be moving into over to the high school, and they'll be resurfacing that one as well. So it's good to get those taken care of. Just some bond updates. We met last week with DLR, the high school administration team, and the district level administration team. Just had a very first design meeting. Went really well. It was lots of excitement, lots of just great conversation, and it's exciting to get that part started. We also met last week with the city to talk about the traffic study. And then also in terms of just some of the project approval processes, there's going to be a lot of things that will need coordination from the city on, and so it was good to have a meeting with the city administration. So, but that's just a quick update on what's going on with the bond. I want to recognize. We didn't do any recognitions tonight, but I will take some time during my communications just to recognize Lincoln Elementary, and I'm curious here today. Lincoln got recognized about a month ago for a shifting school culture recognition through the Kansas Schools Character Recognition Program. Just recognizes schools and districts that have developed and implemented a social emotional character development program for at least 1 year and are transforming their school or district. And Lincoln was one of 5, and we want to congratulate Lincoln for that award. And they also got some recognition for their family groups and club meetings, which was a big part of their school redesign. So congratulations to Carrie for leading that.
And then they won a couple months ago too?
They won a challenge award for the work that they've done on the state assessments in terms of where they were and what they're doing now and meeting some goals. So good job, Lincoln.
Good luck next year.
Yeah. The CURP renewal, Chris, you want to talk a little more about the CURP?
Overall, considering the state of property casualty insurance with the last 3-4 years worth of storms, and considering one of our member districts took a direct hit from a tornado in one of their buildings, our renewal at 15% is really pretty good. And I think it shows USD 49 has been a member of CURP since the inception, so we're charter member, I guess. The net position of CURP is now at 3.8 million. The pool's got big enough that we've been able to restructure basically the corridor. So the pool has its set of money and our deductibles go into the pool, but then the pool, everything is reinsured, which is what, if you're going directly to a carrier, the same thing, they're reinsuring. We now have that reinsurance distributed across 56 different carriers. Basically, we're setting right now as a large pool in the country and running as such and doing well. We're at 88 members, the question came up I think last month. We're at 88 members right now. We just admitted 7 new members for July 1. We've been averaging about 5 new members a year. So very comfortable, confident with where the pool is at. And one addition, so a couple of things stand out on that renewal. Again, it's 15%, but market-wise, that's not bad. 2 things stand out. One, we added, as a part of that premium, we added pollution coverage, I guess, which is pretty timely because it's something that, as you start on a bond project, you probably should have anyway. A lot of the other districts were buying it. We were not. It is now a part of CURP, so we've got some coverage there. They also added a voluntary program for student accident insurance, and we'll probably look at switching over to that and deal with savings there also. Any other questions or comments about?
Well, yeah, it's like,
D&C and everything? One thing, our cyber insurance, the final annual isn't in yet. So our total annual will be a little bit different, but the D&C portion is about to be.
okay, and just also just a note, we have had the conversations about Russell joining our special ed cooperative, and so they were the last piece. Of course, all the member schools voted to allow them to join, and just letting you know that Russell did vote to accept the co-op, and that will fully take effect in 2024-25. So still a few years away, but we'll start the process each year, adding different pieces. So, and that's all I have.
Any questions for Ron on his?
You said that Laughlin, we're starting the windows,
Yes.
and we have some other buildings that are...
Yeah, Wilson and West Side, those will be done as well.
And this building?
Well, West Side.
Not...
Well, the gymnasium, I guess. The gymnasium.
3 windows on the back side of the gym.
Yeah.
And those up there.
The others here.
Is that something that we could revisit to, because of the bond passing and we're going to be making a lot of changes, it seems a little bit
The reason we're doing
wasteful to do windows on buildings that we're leaving.
Yeah, the reason we're doing it is we're trying to protect the floor in the gymnasium.
Okay, for this one?
Yeah, and I think for West Side, I think it's goes back to our mission to provide a quality learning experience. The windows that are in there are not quality. They allow wind to come through, they flap, and so
I understand.
We're probably in there for at least 3 years, at least.
But the return on our investment is going to be...
Yeah, but it's all about our mission, and we got kids in that building.
I think that our money, we ought to be able to look at it and see, like West Side, and is Lincoln on also to replace those windows?
No.
No, it's just West Side and this build, and then just that one. And what about West Side? Can we get by?
I would say
years?
not. I would say you've got kids in classrooms with windows that are less than, I don't know, Linda, you want to talk a little bit about the windows?
I mean, the kids' snacks were melting because of the amount of heat that's in those classrooms, so it's a concern.
How much are we talking?
Well,
Those windows?
I don't remember what the bid was. These are ESSER funds that were utilized, so I don't know we could go back and look.
20, 30, or is it?
It's probably 30,000, 40,000 maybe.
I got 40 in my head, yeah, somewhere in there, but I can do some looking.
That's fine.
Exactly.
I would just say I think it's important. We have kids in those classrooms, that those windows are, we would not allow those in any of our other buildings. And I know it's a short-term deal, but you also have to understand, you're gonna market that building, as well. So it does give it value. It's not like you're throwing money away.
Well, that would be great if we list it and market it, so.
Okay. All right. So let me get back to this. So with some of the consent agenda items coming out, we should have 6.1 personnel transaction. And so I believe, Alan, you pulled that out. Do you want to share your questions or?
Yes, I think that part of it was addressed when Mr. Viner talked about not being on the agenda, and I would just like the board to discuss or maybe the leadership team, why is it not, I mean, before it's always been on the agenda. When the agenda come out, you can see all the personnel transactions. Since it is a public information, I don't know why it's only board members see it and the public doesn't see it till on Monday. Is there a reason why we're waiting?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, because when on Thursday, when I looked at it with Tammy and Craig, it was on there. So,
When I looked at it on Friday, it was on there.
It was not on there Friday, well, I did not.
yeah, it was on there, because I looked at it on Friday. I worked Friday morning and it was on there.
Is it available to the public?
No, understand that, we don't do the agenda for the public. This is information for the board to have.
Did you get it?
The public does get to see it at the meeting, so.
Well, I disagree about that. I think that anything that we have that we're discussing here as far as leases, anything that's public information, we're going to be voting on it. The public should have the opportunity. That's why it's there, and that's why we have a group of people who actually specifically say we want to have those agendas sent to us. And we have attorneys, we have other people that look for that, and I don't understand, we have a different criteria that I understand some things that are for board members only, if it's private, but if it's public information, I don't know why we're holding back. When we have an agenda and we put it out for everybody, the whole public should be able to see it and be able to comment.
It was on there.
And talk to us.
On Friday.
I couldn't get it till Sunday.
There's been times I haven't been able to get it, but I think it might be because it's not available to the public. And if I don't look at it on or print out my, because I didn't see it on Friday either, but I did see it when I printed out my detailed agenda today. It popped up.
You have to log in to your
Right.
account.
Maybe I did not.
Yeah, if you're not logging in, you're not going to see some of that stuff, because that is sent to board members.
I think to go back to our missions, we want to communicate with the public, be open, then we need to have that available. Anything that's public should be public.
And it is
Well,
public.
it
That's
is.
what you're
It's just
looking at
not-
right now. It is public. And understand, just to quote KSB, they tell you the board meeting is for you guys. It's not for the public. The public is invited in, but the information is for you guys. And the
But
meeting is.
our role as board members is to represent the public, and if they
Sure.
see it, then they're supposed to
And
communicate
you
with
share,
us.
that information is shared. It's not, we're not hiding anything. That information is public right now. Everyone can see it.
And I agree, but I think it should be open on Friday when we get it. And not all those leases and all that information, we get it, but it's not available for the public.
Once you discuss it, it is public.
I mean, I just want to confirm, we are meeting the legal, there's no legal concerns.
You're actually not even legally required to have it.
Okay.
Everything that, all the documents that you requested are not subject to the public until they're discussed with them.
So as long as I believe we are, so there's, I mean, I appreciate the comments as far as your desire, but I mean, if we are legally compliant, then I guess it's that people are getting the information.
In your discretion, you can provide your, or individual board members.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel transactions.
Okay,
I second it.
all right. Any further discussion on that?
Until we vote, these are not official, correct? So some of these people, they've offered a job, but is this the final thing that says they're hired?
Yes, it's not official till you approve. If you don't approve, then they're not hired.
If there's anybody on that list that is related to their supervisor, you will have that noted for us
Sure.
as according to our board
The
policy.
direct supervisor, though. That's one of the differences that we've had in past discussions. So,
Right, and one area that I was concerned about that we need to maybe think about is that children and people that we hire that are not 18, how many of those
do you have a
employees
concern
do we
as far
have
as?
that we hire that are not, who are not,
I think I'm only aware of maybe 2 or 3. Those are summer help. That's pretty
like
common
during
in
the
most
year, we
school
also hire
districts.
students.
Yeah, that's pretty common in school districts to hire high school age kids. So I'm not sure what your concern is.
Well, just so that they're not supervised or hired or recommended by employees' children or relatives, that we be careful of that and that you're aware of it and you're letting
Sure.
us know if
I'm
we
aware
hire
of it,
anybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. I think it's time to take a vote on that. All those in favor of the personnel transactions, please state aye. Aye. All those opposed, please state nay. And vote accordingly. All right, moving on. The easement agreement with Midwest Energy for transmission line project. Alan, you had asked for this to be pulled out. What, you want to
I
start
would
the
just like
conversation?
this to be discussed and whoever could present that information. Is this public? All that is on the agenda so people could see it?
Yes.
Can you just
It's in
tell us
there.
about it and because this isn't normal, I mean, we don't, the way I read the consent agenda is it's items that are routine, that's not controversial, that's not very much of an interest to the public, but there might be somebody that might be a neighbor of this would want to know this information.
If you looked at the map and it wasn't public on Friday,
So can you explain where it's at and
well,
what
if
it's
you look at
for?
the photo that was provided to you, that is, and it's also in narrative that's in the board agenda. It's on the south end of Hayes High School property. It's, would be, go ahead, Megan.
The map was public,
Yes,
yes.
yeah, it was public, yes.
It was.
So the
Also, the legal description was public. It's south, at the very south line of the property. It's back in, behind some trees. You wouldn't even know, there's a walking space back there, but otherwise, it's just Midwest Energy needing, they're trying to increase their transmission lines. I think it's a great thing. I mean, I would think it would give us
Shows
a little
growth
better
in
access. I was more concerned about, if it was gonna affect any kind of, our bond in terms of just the site. I had communicated that with our engineers. They looked at all the information, which I also included in your board packet you had on Friday, that he did not see any major concerns with the easement, does limit grading with the easement. However, he did not see that we should be good to go with the easement as far south and away from the proposed high school improvements.
You had mentioned the traffic study. Is there any future, I mean, did the city, were they informed, or are they part of this decisions in case they're having wanting to go have a road through there in the future or something like that?
Yes, the site engineers that's what they do, the traffic study. So they're part of every conversation.
So, but are we doing something that's going to be a problem for them later with this?
No, that's why we
easement?
talk, that's what the communication is. We communicated with the engineers.
Okay. And there's this amount on here, the $6,000, what is, that's a
I guess it's just a,
compensation for
yeah,
the land, or?
Yeah.
Which is pretty standard, I think, with
Yeah,
easement.
that I can't
Agreement?
really respond to.
Yeah, so,
Sounds good.
as long as it goes a windmill.
yeah.
I got 3 of them one time.
But
Yeah,
I-
it's not generating any power for anyone else or us.
Is it so
And they
many-
would be, this easement communication would be communicated with all the people, the neighboring land
Yeah,
owned by
that's-
other
that's
people. That's
Midwest-
Midwest Energy would be
Midwest
doing
Energy.
that.
That's not our-
That would
this
not
is-
be our
this is our
responsibility.
property. They're just,
Yeah.
and,
Put some poles on it.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'm not even sure it'll be poles, it's transmission, it could be
Bury it.
buried. I don't know, I honestly don't know that, but a lot of times that's how,
Is there so many acres or something? Do you have that? I didn't see that, but maybe it's in here.
well, there's an illegal, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's legal description.
yeah,
I saw that, but.
it's pretty common. I mean, we gotta get power to different parts of the world, so that's how it works.
all right.
I
Well,
appreciate the discussion.
if we could go ahead and have our vote, those in favor of approving this agreement, please state aye.
Oh, Tammy, we have to make a
We have a
motion.
motion.
We need a
Oh,
motion.
yeah. Can I have a motion, please?
I make the motion
Thank
that we
you.
approve this.
I second.
I'm reading the motion. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Now can we have a vote to approve this? All those in favor state aye.
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 Those opposed state nay. Nay. Okay, it passed. All right, the board calendar, this is the 2022 through 23 next year's calendar. I know Kurt had questions, Alan no pulled it, so I guess, Alan, your thoughts?
It mentioned that it was a mirror of last year, but I saw at least one change. Was that in December, we had just one meeting, and this one, there's two?
There's one December.
No,
There's only one.
There's only one.
Just one.
There's one, December 12th.
That's the year. 22. 22 is the year.
22, 23 board calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Says December 12th of 22.
So 2 meetings in December?
Just
No,
one.
one.
The 22's the year.
Oh,
They put
gotcha,
it
I'm
on
sorry.
this, right?
I'm sorry, I just glanced at that. I'm-
My
My
kid's
fault
attacking Megan.
on that one. Can you let us know why we're changing the meeting on, to a Tuesday?
Well, I did include that also in the board agenda.
Okay, you're
You
gonna be
had
out
that
of-
on Friday. I said I am out of the district. I do take days off, not very many, and I let you know that is the reason.
Okay, so this is a personal day that you're taking off?
If you can call it that, yes. Do you want to know the reason? I will tell you the reason. My son is the biggest Tom Brady fan in the world, and I'm taking him to see Tom Brady play in Dallas Stadium, Dallas Cowboys Sunday night. Did not think I could get back and do a board meeting, because it's going to be a long drive back, so.
And we did that last year too. We had a Tuesday meeting, the same thing, was the same?
Possibly, yeah.
Same
So-
scenario?
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
but
this is a
I
good.
did give you that information in the board agenda. You did.
And what my concern is, I guess, is that this is the board calendar, and this is a good discussion. I'd like to know why those reasons are. But the calendar for the district that the teachers are involved with, they have several meetings and they have input into it. And this is the third time that we've got this calendar, but we get it, we have no input into developing it. And last year, halfway through, we changed it, which is our
At the
ability.
request of board members, so it was
Right.
flexible.
But I don't know why we don't have this more discussion to implement it and to talk about it, since it's our board meeting agenda. And,
Since it is now an agenda item, then your point is basically moot, because we are discussing it, and we are
Correct.
looking at these dates individually, so.
And that's-
can we
and
just
that's-
talk about the dates instead of complaining about them?
I'm not complaining, I'm just saying we need to have more discussion.
What's the date? Discuss on.
The other question is that prior to Mr. Wilson, we had a lot more meetings, and we had changing, like, we only have one meeting in June and one meeting in July, and normally we would have a meeting, and I had this discussion, why we don't have another meeting, as Craig knows, for many years before, we usually would have sometimes it's July 1st, and that's all the information that we need to do for the changing of the board, to signing what you need to change over for the fiscal year. And now we only have one meeting in July, and I think best practice for most districts is that they have one immediately. Sometimes it's a short meeting.
But that's not even a fair statement, Alan. Ellis only meets once a month and isn't even televised. So there's standard practice, but I, for one, I mean, I feel like we are doing our due diligence, and we, as unpaid elected officials, we put in a lot of time. I guess I'm,
No, you're
are
absolutely
you
right.
saying we need to have more meetings?
No,
I mean,
ma'am. My question is our board, and we need to have that discussion, and we should be involved with this, and when it's changed, we ought to have a discussion about it, and we could change it to the board.
That's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, I guess that's, so
That's right.
my point is, instead of saying what it is we're not doing, I would be more interested in hearing, is there a day you think we need to have it added? What's your solution here, Alan, versus your complaint?
It's not a complaint,
Well,
it's an observation.
Can you get to
that we
what's your
talk more as
request
board.
with this?
You
I'm
asked for
requesting-
this to be us to pull it out, to discuss it. We're not discussing it. We're discussing the fact that you're mad we didn't have it pulled out to discuss.
No, sir.
And so,
I'm just,
is there dates? Do we need more? That's what
I
it's
just
What's your solution?
the solution is that we have the conversation, not just put it in the consent agenda and just
I think-
fly that we talk
Madam
about it.
Don't need
Yeah.
to hold it out. Don't need to talk about that anymore.
Okay, I understand that.
Don't need to hold it out.
Mr. Viner had a
It's on our
question.
agenda.
Did
We
you
are
have a question
discussing-
for him?
Can we please discuss the calendar and not the process? We need to discuss the calendar because it is an item on the agenda. Madam President, I would like to make a motion to approve this calendar as it is presented.
Do I have a second?
I still have a question,
Oh, yes.
please. Okay. On the agenda, underneath where it says board meetings, can we have like a couple of notes, like what's supposed to occur on the December 12th meeting, what happens on, so that you can look down the line and if I'm thinking about something, hey, that's going to come up in 2 board meetings, instead of just saying board meeting November 14th, and November 14th we do this, this, and this usually. I mean, just some basic information about what happens at those meetings, so next year in November, this will happen, and next year in November, this usually happens. Just
A timeline,
a
not necessarily
timeline,
tied to
or 2 or
the
3
date, but
bullets
just
underneath
in.
each one that
That's
makes it,
pretty nice, if that's what the number.
that would make it simpler for me, especially if I have ideas or thoughts about whatever, hey, in 2 board meetings,
Then you know
that's
it's
going to
coming.
be happening, so I would appreciate that.
At least themes.
Yes.
Big
Yep,
themes.
yep. Or
Madam
just-
President.
If that item 3.4 shows up on every November 14th meeting, I think it should be underneath, that would
That's a
help
good
me.
suggestion.
That seems reasonable. Yes, Alan?
Sounds good.
On this August 5th, we had talked and we had made several comments about having a retreat, but we have not discussed that to find out when's the best time. I don't know if somebody's going to take somebody on another football game or something, but
That's
the
low
rest
down.
of us don't
Yeah.
have that opportunity to talk about it. Is that a good date? And I just think we should have that conversation. And so that's why I wanted to pull it out to talk about it.
Okay,
Does that
so,
work with everybody? And
Madam
that's-
President, I move,
So, do you have a problem with August 5th?
Madam President, I move that we approve the,
it's
We've already had that.
been moved and
Calendar.
seconded. I guess let's call for a vote. All right, so at this point, all those in favor of the calendar as presented, please state aye.
aye.
Aye. Vote accordingly. Those opposed, state nay.
And that's with some additions
Well,
to it.
and then I think if we could get a timeline that you've requested that I think that would just be good to have in just a general board packet orientation. I think that would be great,
Like
too.
January, we deal with administrative.
Yeah, I would appreciate, yeah, I think it needs to be added, so. We're separate, I don't care, but so is.
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
know.
Hadley lease agreement, Alan, what was your question?
That's just another opportunity for the public to see us work and tell us a
The
little bit about.
public does see it in the consent agenda. You are aware of that, right?
Yes.
Okay,
But
so.
it hasn't been discussed, it's not routine. We just had a bond, that $7,000, is that changed? Is that the same price?
It's actually $14,000. You're approving for 2 installments.
2,
Yeah.
okay, 2
$7,000
installments.
Yeah, $14,000 for the year. It's like we've visited about before, this is down at the Hadley Center for the Learning Center. This is not the We Can space. That is different. This is, we have found that the Learning Center space has been very valuable. As far as what that might entail for the future, I'm not entirely sure. The one thing that we have to consider, and this goes back to the students who go to the Learning Center, you have to understand a lot of times those students have had difficulties making it in that high school campus. For various reasons, it's not working for them, so they choose a different alternative virtual option. Sometimes the different space is a very positive thing, away, smaller, removed from the high school campus. And so we do find that being a fairly beneficial space for our kids to not be involved at the high school. So I don't know where our conversations will go as far as, once we start with design, what that will look like, but those are things that we do consider.
But this is just for 1 year, right?
It's just 1 year lease, yeah.
Right, so
1
we
year.
have a couple
Yeah.
of years to make that decision.
Yeah.
When spacing changes.
Yeah, through design and even through design, they don't require a lot of space. It's just usually a classroom space. And so if that's something we want to consider, we will look at that.
So, but are you looking at the possibility of having that either at the high school, because there's or the will be junior high, so that we could save on transportation and the possibility of some spaces that might house this program?
And that's what I just said. Those are conversations that we'll have with the design. But once again, also just to consider, the kids that are at the Learning Center are kids who have not, I don't say necessarily they've failed, because that's not necessarily the case. They're just usually situations that make
Unique
it
challenges.
better for them to attend in a different environment, in a different alternative way.
That's how they're defined.
Yeah.
We find very few that are housed there, so we're not sure where, but yes, we'll have hoping to find a home for
They
it.
come by our office all the time.
It's a
We
very
don't
good
spend-
space.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shannon.
By my office all the time.
I just appreciate that you're going to be studying that to see, because that's, at least when we have a $14 or $140 million bond, that we ought to be able to find a space to house that program, whether it be at Wilson or someplace that might be, so we don't have to be spending money when we could be.
Absolutely.
And that we can, when do we approve that lease, or
The what lease?
and how much is it?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't remember the amount. I know Fort Hays pays for half or more than half of the lease for the weekend because of the preschool that's down there. They contribute a significant amount.
I think that was ESSER money that was on a 2-year deal, so that one would be renewed this year. It's all through the special ed.
Yeah.
But Fort Hays isn't down there now, correct?
Well,
They sent students down. As part of.
To work with our preschool.
Oh, who are up there?
So that's why they pay for the space to help us, assist us with the space.
Madam President, I move that we pass the Hadley lease agreement.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All right, at this point, can I call for a vote? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please state nay. And vote
next?
accordingly.
Okay, now, Julie. You're up.
Okay, so the next agenda, do you want to share more on the request for school safety, Ron?
Yeah, I do. A big part of what we've been working on, and I know that our world has had some things happen recently that make this probably even a little more priority. But we've been working on this for several months. Julie Zollinger serves as our coordinator for our school and safety coordinator. And so what we're looking at is some software that we feel will really enhance our safety and security for our schools. It's going to help us provide lots of different avenues. Julie has a demo, and I'm not going to say too much. So are you ready, Julie? Are you all hooked up? So we have with us Drew Smith from Raptor Technologies, and I'll let Julie take over, and you can introduce Drew specifically.
Okay, very good. So Drew Smith is here to give us an introduction on the Raptor technologies. A little bit of history here. With my involvement in all things school, security, emergency management, safety, response, I have sorted through lots of things, companies that are trying to sell different sorts of things, and that's been going on for years and years. Well, I came across Raptor recently and did my due diligence, researching it, reading reviews on it, and I reached out to Raptor to get a demo, and Drew was my demo guy. So we have been communicating frequently through Zoom meetings and lots of emails. I was being the devil's advocate a lot of times with him, asking, well, what about this, what about that? And they have a response and a product that meets our needs. And so I took it to Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Tinkle and talked about it with them and set up another demo with Drew for them to see it. And there we go. So I'm excited to bring it to the board and hopefully get you guys' approval for the product that we put on the, that you guys have, I think, on your board documents. Okay, so Drew, you want to take it over? Oh, hold on. See it, and there we go. Okay, how do I get the volume on the
Scott.
We're good. Drew, can you hear me? Hear you.
Can you hear me coughing?
Yeah, it's like a classroom.
It worked yesterday.
Maybe, Scott, do your advanced audio settings. It could be turned down and stuff there. No, where you were at, that carrot. Yeah, there you go. And then the bottom one. No, it's out. Is it? And it's in. Where are we getting that feedback?
I know, it sounds like it's another.
Oh, it's a delay is what it is.
Yeah.
Drew, we're getting a delay here on our audios.
Put that test speaker up there at the top. Here, very good. Close that and try. Computer audio.
Is it my restroom break?
Yeah, we may need to.
I'm gonna go run for it.
Yeah, here, I can email him the Zoom link that Megan has and.
Just like we can.
Or here.
I just don't know where we're getting feedback from for that link loop. Volume's all there.
Do you have an email address for him?
Yeah, I probably do.
Move on. Come back.
Just
So I'll give you, this is totally impromptu. I told Ron I wasn't gonna talk through it, but we'll fill a little time while they're getting Drew on. So in addition to sharing Raptor with the district admin, a few weeks ago, we shared it, and Drew also did a demonstration for the school administrators. And you may find as you start hearing Drew talk about the information that Raptor can provide to us and the access it can provide to us, then I think you guys will start having the same thoughts that we all did, and it was, how much is this going to be? This sounds too good to be affordable for our district. So Drew and I had a conversation about that when he was presenting to the building administrators. I had him go about 5 to 10 minutes. I could see the look on their faces, like this is too expensive. This is going to be too good to be true, too good to be affordable to us. So I had Drew stop the demonstration, and then we talked about finances. So that's kind of where we came up. And then there was a sigh of relief from the school administrators that, this isn't, $100,000. So.
But I'll talk let me talk a little bit about financing in terms of one of the great things is with the House Bill 2567 that was approved by the Kansas legislature to provide $5 million for a school and safety security grant. So we have turned in a school security grant, which is a one-to-one match, meaning we can get 50% of it paid for, and so that is in. I'm hopeful we'll be able to get that, and I would think, based upon what this is, it really falls within the parameters of what's that grant is designated for.
But the motion we have in our agenda would be for the full amount, and then we'd be reimbursed if indeed we get the...
If we get it. And I think this is priority, and we want to, my recommendation is that you approve regardless whether we get the grant or not, because this is something that I feel like is important for our district to enhance some of our schools.
Submitted? Is the grant submitted?
The grant has been submitted. It was submitted on June 10th. I would imagine we'll hear by mid-July, I would imagine.
I was going to ask Julie, one of the things from being in buildings prior that I was keyed in on was the reunification of kids to parents. You watch so many times on the news, and you've got 600, 1,000 kids to be reunited with their parents, and it's at a different location. And you don't want secretaries with flip charts trying to get the kid to the right person. So that looks so valuable.
Yeah. Okay. So this is super exciting for all of us. The reunification is something that keeps many of us up at night. And hopefully we'll never have a situation where we need to do that. But if we do, our system is clunky. I mean, like Craig said, there's papers, and then the Kansas wind, and these papers are blowing, and not on and on and on. And I know Drew's going to talk about this, but this many times I had goosebumps when Drew was talking about Raptor and what it can provide for us. And one of the big ones was their reunification application. And I won't sell it as well as Drew will. So looks like we're all set, and he will tell us all about what Raptor can do for us. Take it away, Drew. Oh, hold on. We can barely hear you.
Turn Drew up.
All right, try that again, Drew.
Okay, talk, Drew.
Yeah, speaker up somewhere.
Hold on, we're adjusting another speaker.
Change, try one more time.
have a phone, we could just talk through the phone while he runs through the slides. Do you have his phone number? I mean, he could.
Can he do a good demo on his phone? Or does he need
No, I
to be
mean,
someone to do
he's
it?
got the slides, we have the slides, he could talk.
Oh, true.
Yeah, he could, I think he can hear us. So Drew, if you want to
Here we go.
call,
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
okay, he's calling.
try it again though.
No, I think you can call me, he said.
You talk. Hey, Drew.
Can you hear us? Drew, can you hear me?
Nope.
Okay. I just called him.
Hi, this is Chris with Raptor Technology. Please leave a message.
You can move.
It went to your voicemail.
Oh, there you go, we got it.
Okay, you're all set. You're all set now, we can hear you. And
We're good.
we can see your phone. No. This is a reset of his time.
Okay,
Hello, everybody. My name is Superintendent. Like y'all introduced to me, I'm Raptor. I have a background in social work, education, but my master's degree and my training is actually in disaster relief and emergency response. So working at Raptor has been a really great fit for me to be able to use the skills and my skill set that I've learned overseas, disaster relief and emergency response in Madagascar, to help me be able to apply it to education. And it's been really, really fulfilling. Working at Raptor has been great because I really believe in our mission. And I know our mission is in line with y'all's, right? It's about kids. It's not about anything else, but how can we help protect your children, your staff, every single day. We work with over 5,000 school districts across the country. 35, I think it's actually 37,000 schools, individual schools, use Raptor every single day. And we have a high client retention rate of 98%. That is unheard of in school, in school business, right? It's real easy to cancel a contract and walk out of it, and we just do not experience that because of a number of reasons. Biggest is that we're helping get rid of manual paper-based processes. That puts your staff in a really liable position when we're basing a lot of our safety procedures on something that can be really easily messed up. It creates a lot of risk. We also have been able to keep our schools from becoming disconnected and siloed tools. Anytime we're using a bunch of different tools to try to achieve things, we create a lot of issues, especially when we're dealing with safety. So 5B focused on the entire life of school safety. With visitor management, we're trying to prevent issues from happening at the school. We screen every single visitor. Every single time they visit, we're screening against the National Sex Offender Registry. We're screening for custody issues. We're screening for banned visitors. Every single time someone steps onto campus. We also have our emergency management system that will help the administrators manage the drills a lot more effectively. Have the state required work at a click of a button, and be able to help the teachers and the staff really continue to build upon that culture of safety. Key to that is we have Raptor Alert. So Raptor Alert is an app. It's a mobile panic button that allows anybody who has access to it to initiate an emergency, big or small. So your critical alerts like a lockdown, a hold, an evacuate, a fire, those are a click away. And it sends out kind of the bat signal, if you will. It sends out this blaring foghorn critical alert on every phone, even if it's in silent and do not disturb mode. It has enhanced 911 dialing, so we're getting to the correct 911 operator, saving valuable time and getting first responders to the school. It also allows for what we call team assist. And this is probably the number one reason why teachers download the app and use it. It's because with a click of a button, they can report an issue that doesn't need to go to 911. Like, I need a nurse in my classroom. I need the principal to throw out this. We've got an irate parent out on the playground. So we're really looking at how can we help build that culture of safety and provide an easy-to-use system that people will want to use day in and day out. With that comes the accountability and reunification program. So accountability, we're basically syncing with the school student information system. so that teachers can take roll without their physical paper, right? Taking count of all the kids so that whoever's kind of managing the incident can see exactly where people are at a moment's notice and know where to direct resources. And then Reunification, we partnered with the I Love You Guys Foundation to systematize their process, which is a great process, and help save time and streamline it incredibly. To that point, when we run side-by-side comparisons, our reunification program typically allows schools to complete those reunifications 4 times with 100% accuracy. It's because we're syncing with that SIS, pulling student and guardian information, so a teacher or staff member only has to go to one place to know exactly which guardian goes with which kid, where they are, what's been happening. It's all in their fingertips in that app. So that's kind of my quick spiel. Wanted to open it up for any questions you guys may have that I can answer directly.
How does it work where you account for the kids, like at a fire drill, or is it their student passes or IDs, or, I mean, how does it count them?
So syncing with the student information system means that every single day we are pulling in all of the student information. So a teacher, let's say the fire drill or the fire alarm goes off, they get the notification, they open their app, and there's literally a button that just says take attendance. And then they're able to view all of their different rosters. So let's say it's a high school teacher and this fire is happening in period 3. They click on their 3rd period roster and they have all the kids that are assigned to them. And then we do have ways, we do have an easy to use directory that helps them to be able to take account of kids that may not be in the roster, but maybe they're delivering a note in the class and are with them in that evacuation. But it all comes down to that sync with the SIS to pull that information every single day so it's accurate.
So the teacher's still manually going to have to input if they're there or not, correct?
It's a click of a button to mark them as accounted for, or absent, or missing.
But they're still,
it's a simple click of a button.
but they're still marking them, correct?
So,
Yeah. Because we did the evacuation drills back at Hayes High, and we'd line it by them poles, and we had the flip charts, and poor Tom Albers was going bonko beans out there, and, you know, and if it was real,
Yeah.
or they're all coming and getting in line, you know. So as soon,
Kurt, though, is that now, remember how all our centers had to meet in the middle?
yeah,
And take every sheet from each one of those, well, now.
we're just hitting buttons.
Well, that's there, now we can see who's going.
Right, yeah.
You can match that with the absences of the day, and it makes it a much simpler process and really.
That's, yeah. And then also, I want to talk a little bit about just some of the training. That's some of the part of this is the training on how this is all going to take place. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
is that,
I can do that. Yeah, so with any new technology, right, it's not just a matter of getting it into the school. It's a matter of providing the right training so that people will actually adopt it. So there's a big difference between implementing something and having it be adopted. So we do pretty rigorous training with the staff members, so that 1, it's set up correctly, and 2, they know what buttons to press when, you know, what's going to happen if they do it, and how to use it. And then the thing about it is, right, anytime you're implementing a new technology, especially around safety, you've got to practice it. So the nice thing about our system is that when you drill using our system, all of those functions are still there. So if it's a fire drill, right, that's a perfect time for somebody to use that accountability feature in the app, much easier than trying to remember their first period class or using it, you know, pen and paper. But they get that practice with it, and it makes it so that when something actually happens, right, it's muscle memory to use it.
Can you also, Drew, can you share a little bit more about the visitor setup? It's basically the visitor has to show their ID, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So the visitor management, essentially the way it works is the first time a visitor comes to the school, we will scan their ID. So what we're grabbing from that ID is a very limited amount of information. We're grabbing their name, their date of birth, and we're going to scan that picture off their driver's license so we can print it on the badge. But we're not taking any other piece of information, right? So we're not trying to, get anything else. We just need those 2 key pieces of information to be able to run the sex offender screen. So they drop their ID in a scanner, it pulls that information, you hit submit on the visitor sign-in, and then it will screen them against all 900,000 registered sex offenders. And the nice thing about Kansas is that we're pulling from the KBO's registry, which actually includes other offenses, sex offenders. It includes violent offenders as well. So it's a really, really thorough screening there. And then the district is able to program in other alerts that aren't going to show up on a registry, right? A non-custodial parent. Maybe you have somebody stepping in at the front desk, doesn't know that that person's not allowed to see their kid by court order. Right now, they scan that ID and then have that information pop up in front of them without anybody having to tell them, right? So it makes that communication a lot more clear, gets everybody on the same page. And honestly, it takes about the same amount of time as writing somebody's name down and handing them a badge. But yeah, so that's how it works. But the second time somebody comes in, their profile's saved. So we don't have to ask for their ID again. We've got it saved so that we can just literally search their name and check them in and still run that screen. We're always screening every single time they visit. But they don't necessarily have to check in their ID, which is nice because you have repeat people, but it can be a really friendly, hey, Susie, how's it going? Let me check in here. Here's your badge, right? So we found that it's a really, really good way to handle it so that we're not asking for an ID, though you can if you wanted to have that out to your policy.
And if somebody would forget the first time they visit, or I would think somebody that is wanting to maybe avoid this, they would not bring in their license, then what?
So there's a couple of things there. We do have a manual entry function so that you can put in somebody's personal information, right? But best practice is that we verify that they are who they say in some way, shape, or form, right? So if there's some other form of ID that they have, that's great. We can verify they are manually entering the information real quick. But our scanner does work with a variety of IDs, not just driver's license. Mexican driver's license, green cards, things like passport cards. So it's not just a strict driver's license, it's pretty much any form of state ID will work.
Any other questions
I
for Drew?
have one last one. At the middle school, Mr. Albers, when it was a couple years ago, we had that evacuation, and kids were being released class by class. Would this allow us to know, the stress was, where's your kid? Has your kid been released and went to grandpa's out the east side, and I'm standing on the west side? Would this program allow us to know they're still in the building, they've been, will it do that because?
Well, absolutely, that's what it's designed to do. So not only when somebody comes to check out their kid, do we have a record of that if that next parent comes, right? That greeter who's checking in those parents would see right away, your kid was checked out to this person at this time. But beyond that, when we reunite a guardian and a kid, our system automatically notifies every other guardian listed under their approved guardians from the SIS. We'll notify them immediately that their kid's been reunified at this time, this place, text message, voice call, email, whatever contact information they have in PowerSchool, so that it's one less thing to worry about. And the idea here is that if we can communicate that right off the bat, then we can have people hop out of line and speed things up. But that's exactly what it's designed for. So another example, let's say a kid was injured, right? It was a fire in the building and they got some burn, they're taken to the hospital. That also would be immediately available from that accountability to know that that kid was relocated to a hospital instead of out of school waiting to be reunited. So every step of the way, you see exactly where that kid has been, where they are, who they've been in contact with, and then once it's over, we get reports on all of that. So that there's a really good record and report of how things were handled, how to come through, right? How to get those reports.
I think you're probably referring to the bomb threat that we had.
Well, yeah, and when I showed up, there's a police at each door, and kids were coming out one, and I remember Tom's wife was out in the front door, and I was behind her, and we didn't know what was going on, and then some kids were coming out in groups, because he was going through the building, I get it, but you had no idea where your kid was. Had my kid been released a half an hour before, and was over there at Serves, or stopped at Grandpa's, or was still in the building, I mean, I didn't know where my kid was.
Right.
Now, I mean, this would be wonderful.
So, and it sounds to me that because you mentioned Power School, so this is intuitive with other software we already have, so it's not requiring additional data entry. That's awesome.
Correct.
I'm seeing a thumbs up, thanks Scott. I can see the need for the school, whoever, the administrators, or to create maybe, I can see different policies, procedures for the front offices, different than the teachers, different from admin, but it's pretty nimble in order to like have different, hey, I've got the upset parent, not the whole school is going to be notified, but just a select few. I mean, you can determine, okay, I'm seeing the heads nodding, Drew, so that's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's designed for. We even have a school that uses it for their IT ticketing system. So it's just alerting IT that they need assistance in their classroom with some technology. So it's absolutely customizable based on what you want it to be.
Okay. Shannon, do you want to say something?
No, it just really checked all the boxes, a lot of the boxes that,
Drew, what's the maintenance of it? I mean, for the following year? I'm sure there's going to be ongoing training, but will it be as much, or, and the cost previous years?
Yeah. So in the provided, there is a summary at the bottom with the recurrent costs. Additional training for the schools is just included in our customer success way of business. So we don't charge any extra after that first year for training. So if there's additional training that needs to happen, which needs to happen, right? I mean, we have new staff members, we have, new people that need to be introduced to it, right? We're always happy to step in and provide the training. We also provide a ton of resources from webinars. We have a learning management system so that, if people come in here, you don't want to schedule a big training. There are ways for them to do that training self-paced, and we can even run reports to see who's done it. But yes, training is not an extra cost in that second year. There's just a lot of training on the front end, which is why we have that training cost. But that second year is just the licensing, the annual cost that's listed in that quote, that recurring cost. That's all that would be.
Okay.
Madam President?
Yes.
I move that we approve the Rapture training, or Rapture technology in the amount of 35, 34, 40, my screen moved. The amount that's listed on the...
Okay, so I have a second?
34,531, 50 cents.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion before we take a vote?
Julie.
I have a question.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Megan?
My question is about where it will come from. So I guess it's for our administrators. This is a new technology, it's a new service, and it's a recurring cost. So I am interested in knowing where that's going to be allocated from.
I think our plan is it will come from capital outlay. And
What's that?
capital outlay,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And so there is a recurring cost, and we will continue to, as conversations still are evolving in terms of money being made available for safety and security, we'll continue to always look into avenues to help offset the cost of the recurring cost. So we'll continue to write grants.
And that's the way I got it figured, it's like $16,000 is the annual.
I think it's 22,000.
It's 22.
22 is the recurring, 22 something is the recurring. 21.8. Yeah.
Julie, my two questions real quick. With technology changing so quick every year, if we buy into this, we'll be able to get the updates, and I'm sure they will keep changing their system as they work with this. And the second part, so I don't have to come back to you, is if we okay it tonight, will it be ready for the first day of school this year?
Okay, so I'll answer the first one. Drew, pop in if you want to. Yes, we will always be receiving the latest update of Raptor Tech. Yes, he's nodding his head. Yes. And second.
The only concern, if I can pop in here real quick.
Go ahead.
The only concern most schools have is around the actual hardware, that visitor management. But we support that until none of our clients have it anymore. So we're still supporting some scanners that we sold 10 years ago. They need to be replaced. They should be replaced, supporting it. But everything else is web-based, so we can push out those updates easily. Or if it's app-based, we can push out those updates easily. So we're not going to come back and think we're done yet trying to get you to the latest and greatest. You're just going to get it, right? That's just part of that subscription cost. So we're not really in the business of nickel and diming our customers at all. So y'all don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. And the second question, when we can get this up and running, I told everyone else that if you guys approve this, I can't speak for everybody on the team, but I am ready to start working on this tomorrow. So yeah, we want the visitor management system to be up and running by the first day of school when we start getting visitors into the building when kids are there.
And that includes the training between now and then?
That
it's just the technical.
I hear great bunch.
Well,
And you can implement it in stages, I would assume, the visitor part and then the.
Yes, yeah, the alert system will come later. The visitor management system, I think we could, yeah, that's their tech director saying, yes, no problem. No problem on the visitor management getting up and running by the first day of school. But the drill alert is going to take a little bit longer, but yeah.
Thank you for doing all the research you have done on it.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Certainly to be proactive versus reactive on these type of scenarios is, I guess I would default that way. We had a motion and a second, so at this point, call for a vote. All those in favor, please state aye and vote accordingly on electronic.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please state nay. All right, Drew, you can work a little bit longer with Julie. Congratulations.
Yes. Great. Thank
you guys.
Thank you, Drew, and thank you guys
Thank you for being here.
so much for approving that, and I look forward to coming back and showing you the reports and all the data.
Looking forward to it. So, thank you.
Stay safe.
Okay, we're on item 6.6, which is the request for approval for the Hayes High School bowling team's proposal. Ron, if you could even kind of talk about what Keisha's done at the state, as well as where we would be at.
You bet. One of the things that was approved at the Keisha level, and maybe Lance will talk a little bit more, just that approving the unified bowling aspect to state competition. And unified bowling, for just definition, unified bowling is taking students with disabilities and combining them with students without disabilities and making one team. And so I think it's a great concept that is something we're interested in, and also interested in adding a high school bowling team. So I'll just let Lance talk a little bit. He's got a presentation.
Very good. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you guys, what you guys do every day for our students and our community. Back in the fall, Mr. Henderson and I sat down. We talked about some things that we might be able to do to get some more kids involved out at the high school. And so we started talking about bowling and, just what the possibilities would be. So we started kind of informally surveying some students, some students that don't normally go out for sports, and just got some feedback and decided after enough positive feedback from it, we decided to pursue it. So that was my charge, to take a look at how we can get unified bowling, and we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about unified bowling, what it is, what it takes to be able to get it going, and then a regular bowling, or normal bowling, however you want to call it, which is another season or in another section of bowling in and of itself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This go here. So just a little background on unified bowling. So last year, or excuse me, May 29th, 2021, and forgive me, I'm going to be kind of reading a PowerPoint, but I'm going to summarize as much as I can just in the interest of time. So Acacia agreed to partner with the Special Olympics to encourage and develop unified bowling with the member schools. To talk about what unified bowling is, it's actually part of a larger program called Unified Sports, which is something that even different states are coming up with not just bowling, but other sports. And so what it does is it joins people with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. Allows athletes to train and play together to form friendships and understanding. And the other purpose of this is just to basically get rid of preconceptions, have students with non-intellectual disabilities build relationships with those that do, and becoming more aware of what those groups of people go through, what their challenges are every day in life. And sports is a great way of bringing those kids together. Unified bowling is something that the Acacia brought forward and sanctioned as a high school event with its own championship. So that's what we're looking at. So the definitions, requirements, and guidelines. So first of all, the athlete, and the athlete is defined here as the student athlete with a disability. Must meet all Acacia individual eligibility requirements. Pre-participation forms, physicals must be done. Concussion forms must be filled out. Heat, illness, concussion videos must be watched, and so on and so forth. Everything that a regular athlete would have to go through. Have to be on file at the school before they can even participate in practice, same as all the other athletes. Partner, which would be the regular ed student that would be partnering up with the athlete. Same thing, must meet all the same requirements as you normally would with any other sport. Coach has to follow the same rules that any other coach. If they are required to take a test or an exam, then they would have to also, bowling does have that test, they would have to take that exam. They would also have to have the first aid and the CPR training too before they would, within 30 days of them being hired to be able to coach that team. So, in a nutshell, basically what we're looking at are students who are on IEPs, individual education programs, for an intellectual disability, to be able to participate in a sport with partnering up with a regular ed student to be able to compete on a bowling team. This would be a separate season from what the already sanctioned, what's the regular bowling season that's been going on for a number of years. Here would be the season for that unified bowling. So it would start September 26, 2022. Competition date, October 10th. They would have a regional tournament, as you see on that date, with the state championship on November 17th. It's actually the 16th and the 17th. Don't know where that venue is right now. That will come out a little bit later once Acacia secures a place to be able to do that. No student may participate in more than 4 competition days, which means that we would go during that season practice, but we would go to 4 tournaments. Typically, we're looking at probably around 3. Not all of the WAC schools have unified bowling, so we wouldn't go to all of those. That may be 2 right now. We're going to try to get the total of 4. It's just a matter of being invited or being allowed to come to the competitions at schools that have already established this program. Members of they're not subject to the same limitations detailed at Buffer Week, which means that they can still be coached, they can still practice, they can have their coaches with them, they can conduct a practice as a team. And that's just to allow for the special needs students to be able to have a little bit more practice time and to be able to perform better. And why are we excited about the possibility of adding unified bowling? I'm going to show you a little video that talks about some of the students that have been involved with this and some of the representatives at Acacia that have also chimed in. Hopefully it works.
Right now, that are sitting on the sidelines to be a little bit more involved in it.
Just a second.
I just been on that happen because she's a beautiful girl and being able to go out and really awesome.
I actually met him through Special Olympics Kansas because we don't go to the same school, but like because he joined this past year, I was on last year, and so like this past year we kind of got to know each other. First off, he's super such a hard worker, like you can tell from like the moment I met him that like what he wants, and like no matter what he'll work towards it.
Well, that's his way. It's just amazing to just know a lot of good friends and big special moves. Unified bowling in high school is just amazing feeling.
The state of Kansas and the association is really excited that we have been offering high school bowling for our membership for the past 17 years. And next year, as we enter year 18, we'd be more thrilled that Unified Bowling is now going to be a part of the offerings that we have for the membership of Kansas. Adding Unified Bowling and including a lot of students that typically have not been allowed or have not chosen to participate is going to be huge. And I see perhaps it spawning other activity programs so that we have more programs like Unified Bowling that will allow students that currently right now that are sitting on the sidelines to be a little bit more involved and to be part of that school atmosphere.
There's always a reason to say no, but the right thing to do is to say yes. Not only does it benefit these students with special needs, it also benefits everybody else that is in that circle.
I think bowling is an amazing sport for special needs.
I think it's an awesome opportunity, especially for like since a lot of the sports I'm having like basketball and soccer, a lot like there's some certain Philippines who can't participate as much just because of their mobility functions. So like the fact that they're giving this opportunity for people who have more have more non-functional stuff is so cool because like it gives them the opportunity to like participate.
You know, going to school is exciting, it's important, and you only get to do it once. And why not allow those students to have those wonderful memories like all the rest of our high school students have?
I have a grandson with Down syndrome, and it's as much right for my grandson or any child who has Down syndrome to provide a bowling opportunity as it would be for a star football player to get to play quarterback on Friday night. I think success is not going to be about a state champion or anything. It's going to be that first meet where, you know, it's going to be normalized in a way that I think is healthy for the kids and the parents. And I can tell you, it's going to be a big day.
Being in part of Special Olympics is probably like honestly like showed what I want to do in my life, which is so cool to think that at like 16 already. So like 100% join it. Even if it's like a question or like a doubt in your mind, just like join it because like this community like more like other like.
Join us at Special Olympics Unified Bowling.
Join the Unified Generation at generationunified.org.
So any questions about the unified bowling part on that?
How many will it be limited to?
There really is no limitation. I mean, what we're kind of thinking about is at...
You're going to have to close your web browser.
It was a beautiful Tuesday morning on May 2nd.
Glad that wasn't X-rated or something.
Yeah.
So there really is no limitation on the number. So we're kind of going by what Garden City had, which was about 20 kids or so. But you can do a lot with that program. You can take some that, for one meet and then not, take another group at another meet and so on and so forth. You're kind of at the liberty as far as participation wise, how many you want to take.
Sure, it's got one-on-one pairing.
I'm sorry?
It's a one-on-one pairing?
Yes, one-on-one pairing. And, moving forward, basically what we would do is, as we get it going, there is a certain supervision requirement. There's got to be a certain amount of adults, teachers, educators that do go along on the trips. But we'll work through those things as we get it going. And we'll make sure that the supervision is, up to par and, what the recommendations are. One thing I can tell you is that it is an intellectual disabilities priority in regards to the students that participate. So we're not talking about like somebody who is not intellectually challenged but is in a wheelchair or something like that. It is for those with intellectual disabilities primarily. Now you can have a student that has both, but the eligibility factor would be what is on the IEP diagnosed as an intellectual disability. So if anybody ever asks about that, if it's somebody that they're talking about with a physical disability, well, we would try to integrate them in the regular bowling program, as many other schools have already done. If there aren't any questions about Unified, then I'll go ahead and move on over to regular season bowling.
Sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They said that on Unified they have the same qualification. What about the age requirement? Because we have high school students that are 20s.
Up to 21, as long as they are still in school, they're able to participate.
And not the normal 19, the cutoff for a Acacia athlete.
They would be able to participate up to the 21-year-old if that student is on that type of an IEP, they would be able to participate.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Unified? Okay, regular season bowling. Last year when this was approved, and it was approved in May, and then it was kind of put out to the schools to say, hey, look, you can do this now. Well, it didn't give us a lot of time to really prepare and think through everything that you needed to do logistically and get a coach hired and all that. So we did decide to put it off for a year, but one of the caveats, I guess, if you want to put it that way, was that, well, if we're going to put in unified bowling, well, we're going to hire a coach, then we might as well talk about put in regular season bowling as a CASIA-sanctioned event. So I put it forward to you guys today about, for approval, if we do unified bowling, it would only make sense to be able to offer regular season bowling too. They are two different seasons, as you will see as we go through the slideshow. The reasons why, 70 million people bowl per Wikipedia increases involvement, research shown higher grades, test scores, offers athletes a safe, clean environment, but without having to do a contact sport or a high skill intensive sport. It's a lifetime sport. Once they learn it, they can go as long as they want.
And it's fair to say then, since you're paused, that obviously those that have physical disabilities but are not on an IEP would have an opportunity to be involved as
To
well.
be a partner, yes. Yep, they would definitely have an opportunity.
To partner with the
to
Unified.
partner with the IEP
Okay.
student, yes.
I was thinking you were meaning to be a team member of the
Yeah.
traditional season.
Right. So you will be qualified as either an athlete, which is the student with a disability, or the partner. They could definitely be a partner if they wanted to. They want to do that. 70%. This is according to CASHA. 70% of the students who bowl in the 94 schools that participate do not do another sport. So therefore, this kind of takes care of one of the goals that we were looking at. Gives additional opportunities to compete, earn varsity letters, compete for scholarships, and all the other things that you can see there. There's 94 current teams that do have bowling, from 6A all the way down. I think it's 3A is the lowest classification with schools involved. There are 29 schools in 5A, and we are the only school in the WAC that does not have bowling, which puts us at a disadvantage outlined in the last bullet. If we want to ever try to compete for the WAC Champions Cup, and that's the all sports, all league cup, whereby the school that has earned the most points in both boys and girls sports is the champion of the league for having had, I guess, the most success across the board with all sports. Since we don't have bowling, that puts us at a disadvantage in being able to collect points against the other teams, the other schools. So that would help us out a lot. Here's an example schedule. When this schedule came out, I was still in talks with the Centennial Lanes and the Harriman family in regards to cooperation. What they requested is that our meets that we host are on Thursdays. So we're in the process of taking a look at that, what that would look like. The bowling coaches across the league they get together, and they're the ones that come up with that. But it would be 8, which is the maximum amount that you're allowed, same as with any one student that participates in tennis or golf, track meets, so on and so forth. The maximum allowed competitions is 8. So once we decided we were going to get rolling on this, there was a number of people that I visited with. First and foremost was the Harriman family at Centennial Lanes, and they were all for it. They felt it was a great opportunity to grow the sport. We have a number of high school kids that do bowl on non-league nights, so they were very pleased with the opportunity to be able to try to do this. Here is, and mind you that this is a bit of an approximate breakdown based on current fuel costs and the supplemental salary schedule and fuel and transportation costs. So after getting the okay from the Harrimans and the agreements that we came up with them, then I visited with Russ, Mr. Henningsen, to talk about what the expenses would be for some of these trips. As you'll notice from the schedule, we would be traveling, possibly 4 times and hosting 3 to 4 times. So if you take a look at Unified, we would probably be looking at 3 trips right now. Dodge City is still looking at having Unified bowling, so I just included them. If we wouldn't be traveling to Dodge City, we would probably try to find a non-conference school that would allow us to compete. So I just left that figure in there as just sort of an in-between average between Great Bend and Garden City, because it would probably be somewhere like Salino or maybe one of the Wichita schools. So for a round trip, as you can see, about $443, Garden City being the most expensive. Under Unified, Liberal at this point does not have Unified, so we're not sure about what they would do with hosting. And then on the other side, you have, for the regular bowling, our 4 trips with the total. Now that doesn't count state and regionals, of course, but that would be an additional cost. We just don't know where that would be. So under transportation, over to the right, the total would be around a little bit over $5,000 annually at this point, based on current fuel costs. Rental, one of the agreements that we had with Centennial Lanes was basically what it comes down to is they did their research with the other WAC schools, and basically what the rule of thumb is, they charge about $50 per participant. So I put two numbers up there. One kind of a high end, I think, at 30, and then I looked at 20 participants, which would give you, it's both boys and girls at the same time, but they do compete separately. The girls will have their competitions on some lanes away from the gentlemen. So as you can take a look there, for unified bowling, it'd be about $1,000 for 20. And then regular bowling would be about $1,000 for 20. And if you take a look at, if it's 30, you can add $500 to it. So you're talking about between $2,000 and $3,000 a year for the rental agreement for Centennial Lanes. In addition to that, when we host, we would charge admissions. They would supply all the workers, though. They take the admissions, and then they collect that and they keep that. In addition to any concessions that they sell, any rental of any balls or shoes, which is another nice thing about our part of it, is that if you'll notice under the equipment, there are no equipment costs for us, because it's basically shoes and balls, and either the students will purchase them themselves or they use the house equipment, and so on and so forth. So there would be no cost in regards to us having to find admissions workers or officials or anything like that. That would be taken care of by the bowling alley. Coaches, we would hire 2. And the other part of that would be the volunteers that would go along with the team as they travel. We would put this at a Class 2 Level 1. This is on par with the other schools that have hired coaches, which currently Class 2 Level 1 coach gets $22.10 a year. So for 2 of them, you're talking $4,420. Again, the total annual budget is a bit of an approximation, but you're looking at almost $13,000 annually for transportation, coaches, and so on and so forth, for the possibility of giving 40 to 60 kids another opportunity to be involved with their school and to participate in a sport that we're the only one in the WAC that doesn't have, and it's being implemented by other schools more and more every year. So.
Lance, have you surveyed students, and you have an idea there's about 20?
No, Alan, we have not. We have not surveyed, like put out a Google survey or a Survey Monkey or anything like that. We have not done that.
When is this season? What time of year? Is it coincide with obviously some others?
Yeah, bowling is sort of it's a winter sport. So it starts at January 1st and ends, I can't remember exactly when it is. It's, I want to say March.
You had it on one of your
slides.
slides.
Yeah, it was in there.
January and February is what you showed.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Go back.
Yeah, January to February. So it's about 7 weeks, if I remember right.
Is that $50 parent pay, or is that $50 fee that per athlete?
No, we would pay for it out of the athletic budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the same that we do for like golf or?
Yeah. Well, right now golf for their, if you're talking about rental fees out at the course, yeah, that is paid for by the district.
Well, I mean, is there also a fee for participation for some of those sports?
No. I mean, well, there's the overall activity fee that they pay at enrollment,
Sure.
But they don't pay like to play basketball.
$75
Yeah,
fee.
no, there's
for
no.
golf. Okay.
Right, there's no separate fee for participation for each sport.
Would these teams, both teams, have a uniform? Because that's not present.
Right, so this would be treated a lot like tennis and golf. So right now, fundraising takes place amongst those teams. So that is another thing that we would have to talk about with the bowling team, is possible fundraising ideas, or if the parents want to pay. Just depends on what route we want to go, because basically what it comes down to is that they would keep that shirt. It would not be a uniform that we turn in, because in the past as with golf and tennis, nobody really wants to wear the shirt that somebody wore the previous year. So Acacia allows, I think, $50 per grata, I think, in regards to a donated cost. So that's what either A, we would pay for it out of what would be a bowling budget, or B, it would be paid for out of a fundraiser.
So have you already, has there been a student interest in this already because that's a short time for you to promote it right there at the start of the year, so.
It's got legs, I guess you could say. I've had a number of people, hey, Mr. K, I heard you guys are going to put in bowling. Well, hang on, that kind of thing. So I have a feeling that it's going to take off as soon as we put it out there. Those kids that bowl. Yeah.
Do you know why we used to have bowling and now we don't? And why did we not have?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not familiar with the history. In visiting with Mr. Maska, he said that they tried about 20 years ago, but it just didn't catch on. So from my understanding, there's never been bowling.
Yeah, we had a student, we had a couple of kids, the student was really good, and so they developed a team and had it for probably while that kid was in high school. And then it probably just died down, so I just wondered if that was the reason.
Yeah, you'd have to probably talk to maybe the old guard. I don't know if you want to go there, but it might have been as a club. But I don't know of it having ever been an Acacia-sanctioned activity within Hayes High. But like I said, I'm not totally familiar with the history of it.
And so whether or not we have team members that are, I'm going to call it the traditional team or the unified team, it doesn't matter. We would still go, we would still commit if one or the other team doesn't get created.
Once you approve it, then it is a sport that is offered. If no kids go out, then we just don't have that season, I guess is.
But we would still have, if we had, especially in the unified, if we had two, we could have a bowling team.
Definitely.
Is my understanding.
We would have them participate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the partners have to pay the $50 also as a participant?
No one's paying though, we would pay for them.
But do we, is it our cost of it?
Yeah, so, it'd be for every participant. So, let's say they participate in unified and in regular, yes, they would, for each season, we would be charged for their participation as part of the rental fee.
But they coincide at the same time?
No, they don't.
No. Right. The unified starts in September and ends in November.
Gotcha.
And it's about 7 weeks.
Well, Madam President, I'd like to make the motion to approve the recommended request for adding Hayes High School Unified Bowling and Hayes High School Bowling teams to Hayes High School extracurricular activities.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I would like to take a vote at this point. All those in favor, please state aye and vote accordingly. Aye.
Thank you, Lance.
All those opposed, state nay. Well, we'll get our thing here before long. Thank you very much for your due diligence in looking at this and giving us the information today. Good luck with the season. And
Thank
finding
you for
coaches.
your support. And we'll get a schedule out and come on down, watch our kids bowl when we get her going. So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very good.
I learned that bowling chair.
We take a 5-minute recess.
So I've been asked if we could take a 5-minute recess. I think that's a wonderful idea. It may, for a potty break, but we didn't get our opportunity to vote. It passed, so it'd be 6-0. So, at this point, what time is it? Let's make it 9 o'clock. It gives us 8 minutes to go have a restroom break. And can I?
Here, I can open.
For the audience, if you don't know, ask somebody who knows what the bathrooms are. I'm not the person to ask, but can I have your key, Jess? Or are you doing it? Okay. That was very much needed. Thank you, Craig.
Well, Kurt had mentioned it.
I told you I got.
Well, I was thinking there's a way I can get.
All right, awesome.
So does that mean we're only
And that's
halfway
just
through?
student addition, so.
Pretty much.
We have to set up the teacher. I didn't want to give it to the teachers and tell them everything was here.
I know, I was starting to swim over
I
here.
gave the teachers all their additions, because I had all teachers' additions. I opened boxes and counted, but I'm not going to give students.
All right, let's go ahead and get back.
Trained till everybody has it in their hands.
Ask you all to take your seats, please.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that patience while we did that. The next item is 6.7. So yes, Ken, we're halfway. So 6.7 is a new position, District Technology Help Desk. So I guess at this point, would that be you, Ron?
That's me. Just as this is part of our continued efforts to improve our technology processes, one of the things, if we're going back to the K-12 ITC audit that looked at all our technology processes, one of the things that we determined is that we really, our help desk situation is really not meeting what we need at the end user, meaning where the people with the devices. And so we've looked at our processes, and we feel like, and through that audit, they determined we were short-staffed in that area. So we're coming to the board today to request a district technology help desk manager. Basically, this is just a person who is going to help manage the help desk and just also help and support the help desk staff with just day-to-day building support. This is basically another boots on the ground person. But they also have some management where they will oversee a staff of techs. One of the things that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, and then probably more from Scott's end as the director, he has lots of different things going on in his world, and sometimes the oversight of the help desk staff is not as good as we need it to be. And so by having this help desk manager, I think we'd have a person in place, and also just another person that's in our buildings working with end users and supporting devices. They'll be assigning tickets, trying to resolve issues. They'll also be looking at trends. If we're starting to see a certain trend that's popping up a lot, we can maybe look at addressing that a different way. And also, if we have just some situations that are not getting resolved, making sure that escalation gets moved up and it's handled. So we'd really like to see the turnaround time increase and get better, and we feel like this position would help with that.
How long is the contract?
240 days. That's 12 months.
This is 12 months?
Yeah. Oh, 241.
It's 241, I think this year, 242.
So it's a full year?
Yeah.
What's this, do we have a salary scale?
Yeah, it's included in your
25.
Estimated pay range at 25.
It was,
And if you open up the flow chart, it's got, well, actually on that page, it's got the
I see it now.
responsibilities.
Having been in a technology oh yeah, Megan, sorry?
This would be considered a skilled staff member, right? Like it would be.
It's classified.
More than a para, it's
yeah, I mean, there's certain skills. The management piece is probably as important as technology skills. We need to make sure that we're meeting just our end users' needs, and so the management piece is huge. We always feel like we can train people on the technology. We have people who on our staff, Scott and his group, can help with training some of those things as far as the tech skills.
Currently, have these been Scott's responsibilities?
Well, and Scott, you're welcome to come up and talk about this as well. But yeah, Scott as the director oversees that help desk, making sure tickets are resolved. But sometimes as a director, he's got 14 fires that he's putting out. And I think sometimes we put him in a tough spot. We put our end users in a tough spot because we're trying to spread things too thin.
And another piece to that I thought through was around inventory. We've got a lot of devices in and out, so having kind of that single point of oversight in devices, inventory devices, but just kind of our other inventory, cables, chargers, things of that nature. Because, I order, 10 HDMI cables there in the office, but as those guys close tickets out, they're grabbing cables, and I don't honestly know sometimes that, hey, we're out of cables again. So having somebody that can oversee that and say, hey, we're getting low, we need to order, do some of that stuff as well.
She will be located over, they'll work out of over there.
Well, actually,
they're not
that's a management piece, but I envision this person being in our buildings.
Out in the buildings
Yes.
too? Helping teachers with their
And students
materials
and all kinds of things that come with this.
But I think what's intriguing about this, instead of just getting another computer tech, to add that project management piece, whether it's inventory, whether it's the ticketing, to me, those type of trends as well as oversight is probably a very different aspect than the actual computer tech. But you get all the other benefits too out of this individual. Is that a fair assumption, or what am I missing?
No, that's a fair assumption. And the help desk, what we've talked this year, is actually going to grow. I ran the numbers. And I think it's a little bit, but it's showing 13 tickets a day is what we average new. I'd say 10 is not uncommon. But we're also looking at implementing student help desk situations for next year for the high school, middle school as well. So right now, a lot of that's walk-up traffic. They may bring the computer in, bring the iPad in, it gets fixed, it goes back out. We don't have any trend of data of what's going on there. So running that student ticketing system as well and having the management of that will help. When you think about it, all the student devices, staff devices, and the number of tickets that be coming in, there's a lot moving around some days.
Any other questions for Scott or Ron? All right.
Scott, are you fully staffed with your tech people for next year, or do you still have some openings?
No, we've been fully staffed.
Okay.
We're running this year we did 2.5 techs. We added that half position this year. So that's been beneficial.
So if approved, is this something that's going to be hired quickly, or?
Yeah, we'll advertise starting tomorrow.
Now, did you add a staff member in your office area?
No.
Another secretary down?
Yeah, on my side for helping with.
So that's an addition also than you've had in the past?
Well, yeah, that's been a split, but yeah, as far as like purchase orders and things like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of a trade too, so we took some staff, once we moved to electronic time cards, we took away some of the manual processes through payroll and HR and moved that position down there to try and help. So it wasn't a new position at that point, it was a reassignment.
Thank you.
So that was okay, but it's still something that is it now paid out of the technology budget, or is it paid out of something else?
Or split?
Yeah, it's all
general.
We code it as a technology expense now, but it's still general fund expense.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to then, I'd like to make the motion to approve this new position. Let me get my verbiage. Of a district technology help desk manager. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further questions? All right, hearing none, or questions, discussion. Hearing none, let's go ahead with the vote. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. All those opposed, please state nay. I would just like to add here too, Scott, we obviously, when it comes to technology, it's always a matter of when, not if. And so, certainly what you are dealing with, and thank you for keeping on track and the rotation that you've had and the calendaring. We'll probably continue to be hearing more. So thanks for all you do. All right. Moving on, let me make sure. So this is still you, the purchase of computer labs for the Hayes High, computers for the Hayes High School computer labs. Which one of you wants to share?
I can. So what this is, it's the Hayes High, we've got four labs out there, 3 Windows labs, 1 Mac lab. 3 window labs are AutoCAD, video production, and then your journalism yearbook webpage is in another lab. Though last year we ended up replacing the Mac lab, but the other 3 labs have not been replaced since 2015. Those machines went in the summer that I started here. They're working, but are they really fulfilling the need of those CTE courses? That's really what it's come down to now. AutoCAD, and then when you talk video production, they're using Adobe Premiere, journalism's using Dreamweaver, Photoshop, InDesign. I mean, those programs are very graphic intensive, and we're getting to the point, the machines are running, we can limp them along by doing hard drive upgrades, RAM upgrades, but truly at the end of the day, and what we kind of ran into and kind of the holy cow moment right now is the graphics cards. What the latest software updates are saying that we need as far as software or hardware in the machine, we can't fulfill that. The software will still run, but we're not doing the kids any kind of a disservice in what we're giving them as far as career and tech ed. So these machines, and when you look at the quote, they are expensive machines, but they're expensive for a reason. They've got the GPU units in them, they've got the extra storage, the RAM. We did, I think, go with a little larger monitor, 24-inch monitors on them. Right now those labs are, I think, outside of video production has some larger monitors, but everybody else is still 21-inch monitor in them. So definitely, I wanted to get them in the 5-year support on there. That's the pro support, so if there are any problems with it, graphics card goes out in 1. We're set up with Dell as a tech direct school, so if it's the graphics card, I can report that to Dell. They'll overnight a new part to us, and we can have it back in the machine and running. So we've done that with a handful of machines now. Anything that we're buying, we're getting the pro support on for that reason, and it's pretty handy to have parts here overnight for it. So.
You said 5 years, Scott?
Yes.
Okay.
How long do you think the life of these towers would be?
Oh, past 5 years. When I talked to the Dell rep, he said minimum 7 years. And really, the requirements when you talk AutoCAD to video production to journalism, they're not all identical. We're buying all identical machines here. The reason for doing that is with the new high school going in, I don't know what lab situations are going to look like there, but with 57 machines, you can consolidate. Right now, I know the AutoCAD lab sits 20 right now. They've talked about, if they could push that to 30 for enrollment needs. So we could take these 57 machines when they're moved to another building, you can combine them into a larger lab and then fill in another position. So that's why I wanted matching ones now instead of trying to shoehorn a bunch of different machines together into a lab, 2 years from now.
So these machines will move over to the new high school when it opens.
They're replacing like machines, or did you say this is a Mac lab, or?
No, there's 4 labs at the high school. One of them is a Mac lab. The other 3
like the graphic design?
Yeah, like an art graphics design.
Heath Mater.
Yep. And so the other 3 are Windows, so it would be replacing those 3 Windows machines. So yeah,
And the monitors they're not all in ones though. You have the monitors are fine, and are you moving these computers to another building, or are you going to sell them, or what's with the surplus, or there's still some value in them? I would think they're that expensive.
You're talking what's coming out of the lab now?
Yes, sir.
We'll surplus them. mean,
Surplus.
they're 7-year-old machines. 7-year-old just i5, 8 gig of RAM. You know, they're not a high-end machine. We would probably hold back some because we do have like machines still in the district. We've got 1 lab or 2 labs at the middle school that are the identical machine. So.
And the monitors are still, they're nice monitors.
They're just run-of-the-mill Acer 21-inch monitors. And nothing, we could surplus them, but I don't know that anybody, I don't even know that surplus, if we sold them to a recycler, if they would give us, $5, $10 for them.
Okay.
But
Is this part of our computer budget? Is it part of the budget?
Yes,
that we
it's
budget?
part of the technology.
Okay.
And then it'll be on your, I mean, you will have this on a calendar
So-
for replacement in the future, probably
Yeah,
5
and
or 7
That's
years?
what Chris and I've talked about. Right now, to have 3 labs go out like this, I mean, you don't want to be replacing 3 labs all at once, but what this will afford us the opportunity to do 3 now, when we move to the new high school, you can consolidate it into probably a lab and a half, would be my guess. 2 labs, and then have your, buy a new lab there, and then that would start that rotation cycle. So.
Did a couple of labs last year, right at the end of the year, trying to get these 3 now so that we can get in a rotation, because every lab was about the same age. and so you get them all-
Every lab was bought in 2015. When I started here, they replaced everything.
So the Mac lab, when do you see that you're going to be replacing it?
We did most.
We did,
Was that one of the ones last summer?
yeah, it was last summer. We did 18, I think he sits just over 20, I want to say 22 in there.
And then we've got a few more to finish that, but there again, even with that Mac lab, trying to get a little bit of a rotation there, so you don't have to do them all at one time.
And when we move to we're guessing you're gonna need more at that time on the Mac lab too, when we move into the other building or not? What do you think?
Is that having the crystal ball? I
Yeah.
don't know, but I would imagine lab setups in the new building are minimum 30 machines.
So this will put us, if we can get a couple more now, that'll get us to 25, which is kind of capacity in that room, right? That we're sitting at. And in a couple of years, we add 5 more to get it up to 30. And you kind of get a rotation going through that lab too.
And that is, I'll say that about Mac, and I'll say the same thing about Windows. I mean, trying to keep them the same machine makes it easy for parts and things like that. But as long as you keep them in a close enough rotation for OS support, I mean, on a Mac lab, you could have 3 different generations of machines in there, but they could all be running the same OS. So, it's not going to change what the end user sees. It may be a little bit different of a machine. But, so, I mean, any lab, we can have that kind of similar setup. It's easy to keep them all the same, but as long as they're running the same OS, the same version of software, and running it properly. Obviously you don't want one machine that is, I'd say the one that doesn't run efficiently enough and then doesn't get used versus the other end of the lab that's the brand new high efficiency machines, and everybody wants those. So I think there's a balance to be struck in rotation, but we'd find it.
Scott, how's the supply chain from Dell? When will we be able to get these? Will it be mid-year?
Right now, there's been a lot of negotiation around an outstanding order we have with them. Just because, and I will say this, the hardest part about these machines is going to be the graphics cards. If anybody knows anything about crypto mining, that has just completely destroyed graphics cards and the ability to purchase. When I talked to Dell last week, one that we were looking at was still 104 days. That's when they're showing delivery, but he said that could very well change in the next month. We have another one we're looking at that's supposed to come in stock in July. Right now, the quote that's before you, I'm told, are in stock. So they would start the build out and we should see it in July. But, yeah, I think we all know how supply chain changes overnight.
Yeah.
I I would like to go ahead and make the motion to approve 57 lab computers for Hayes High School for $155,040. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Scott. I'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. All those opposed, please state nay, and vote accordingly. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thanks.
All right. The next is the ECC vehicle purchase. So,
Okay, the vehicle purchased that you have the bid for from Auto World is out of the Kansas Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Federal Grant Fund. Will be utilized to make visits to family visits, delivering materials to child care partners, child care recruitment meetings, and you have the bid. We only had one bid submitted. This is part of Donna's kind of, she's got some funds that she needs to spend down. Once with federal funds, once again, if you don't spend them down, you send them back. This is something to take care
and
of.
risk possibly losing in future years, is my understanding. Okay.
And any reason why there's only one bid? Who knows?
We sent it out, and I don't.
Nobody's got cars.
Russ tried to go through the state system, and they're not taking bids right now because there's no vehicles available. So that's why then he went looking for some new vehicles around, nothing that could be delivered within the time frame. And so that's when we put out bids for a used vehicle.
How long were bids out?
They're a week.
1 week?
That's what we did with the driver's ed, and we had 6 or 7 then, so I just,
Okay.
I don't know, timing, I guess.
Okay.
Well, and used vehicles are tough to come by right now.
They are.
Well, I'd like to make the motion to accept the bid from Auto World for a 2020 Chevrolet Equinox for $30,195. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
This is all paid through ECC, their insurance and all that is taken care of
They're
through
not
them?
their insurance. I don't know. Is the insurance? Yeah. Okay.
It's all, okay.
Okay. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this, please state aye and vote accordingly. Aye. All those opposed, please state nay. Motion passes. You get your vehicle. We do have our board picture that you can use as a wrap and drive around the state.
I will keep that in mind.
Okay. So the next is about our district workman's comp insurance. I'm going to lean your way. What is your plan for this discussion?
I'll just sit here quietly if that's okay, unless, I don't need to leave the room, do I, Mr. Jeter? You do. I do? Okay.
Oh,
Then
thank
I'll
you.
leave the room.
I misspoke. Thank you very much.
Just insurance planning?
Yep.
Convey messages with body language.
Trouble.
All right. At this point, waiting for him to go, but who's going to share more? Will that be Chris? Okay.
Get you.
Gotta tell me.
So we bid the comp this year. Typically, I don't know that it's been an official thing, but usually that's something you do probably between 3 and 5 years. You do it too often, and you sometimes have negative feedback from the carriers. Okay? Everybody's assuming that you're going to have a couple of years with them. So between 3 and 5 years, I don't know the last time we bid it, but we bid it this year. We got very competitive quotes from, so where the P&C market is really hard, the work comp market is a little bit softer. So the quotes were very competitive that we got between Iron Insurance, who is the broker that we currently have our coverage under with Hartford. Hartford did not bid us, but Iron went out and found some carriers that we bid. We bid with KASB, who is a pool. That would be similar to what we are with our P&C through Kerm. And got experience with KSB quality. There's some value adds, but they were the first one to come off the table because their price was a little bit higher, which is, sometimes that can happen with a pool because they don't drop people, so there's some value to that, but the market that we're in right now, we don't feel like we need to go with that. Bottom line, insurance planning had the lowest quote. They recommended their second quote from West Bend, which was a little bit higher. That was a touch higher than what Iron's lowest quote was, but Iron, just like insurance planning, recommended the one that was just a little bit higher. So our recommendation after doing some research on the carriers and checking references, all that stuff, I would recommend that we go with insurance planning and Argent Insurance. Along with that, at the same time, I think it would be wise, based on consultation with insurance planning, to move our deductible from $1,000 per claim to $2,500. Basically, through West Bend, they have a dividend program that's based on number of claims, right? And so if your deductible is a little bit higher, you're going to have less claims, so there's also a higher opportunity for more dividend coming back. Along with that, a lot of our claims are lower dollar amount, maybe student contact things. A lot of that happens through special education co-op. This gives really the co-op pays the deductible on co-op employees, where the district pays. I mean, they're all district employees, but special education co-op employees, that deductible is paid through the co-op. So it'll help offset some of that cost, equalize some of that cost, and hopefully lead to some dividend too. So my recommendation, based on all of that, would be to go with West Bend and to go with a $2,500 deductible instead of the $1,000.
Question then, Chris. So if there were service issues that you needed to follow up with the company, are you calling insurance planning or do you end up calling Argent?
So a little bit of both. That's a great question. Yeah, a little bit of both. Right now in the work comp, if there's general consultation questions, I'm going to Iron. If there are the day-to-day, the claims processing and all of that stuff, then HR staff is going directly to Hartford. And that's really what I think wins out on West Bend, because really those three best quotes were nickels apart. The references and what I think is going to be pretty good service and follow. And with work comp, you do have some of the training things that go into it too, and the loss prevention, loss mitigation kind of stuff. I felt really comfortable with West Bend there. So long answer to, yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay. I believe this was on, this was a discussion item at one point, and it got delayed. Ron, do you want to mention that at all, or
I'll let Chris talk about that.
Okay.
Well, what was actually on earlier that we took off was a longer term contract with Iron, because Iron is our access point to KERM for our PNC and the cyber and all of that stuff. And as a part of that contract, they were asking for 3-year, I think a renewal of a 3-year commitment, not only to KERM, but also to the work comp. And we basically went back to them and said, hey, we want to bid the work comp this year. We're happy, obviously, with KERM. We want to stay with that. And so that was
more research.
It wasn't necessarily, it was for Iron Insurance, but it included the work comp. We wanted to be able to bid the work comp.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to accept the quote from Argent Insurance Company, West Bend, for workers' compensation coverage with a $2,500 deductible beginning July 1st of 2022. Woo! Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. We would go ahead at this point, request for a vote, but before I do, Ken's vote is just, it's going to be 5, if it passes, it's either 5-0, Ken is not abstaining, because he is absent. Okay, all right, so all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. All those opposed, please state nay, and vote accordingly. Okay, would somebody please go get Ken?
Chris, I appreciate you working this out, and I am thrilled that we're able to support a local business through insurance planning, who were a very good partnership prior to the USD 49.
Madam President, is Megan not with us anymore?
I'm assuming Megan, is Megan still?
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said 5-0, but is it 6-0?
Well, we only have 6 right now.
Yeah, you can't vote.
So
Because we have, gotcha.
How'd that vote go?
Welcome back.
Well, way to go.
we could feel your body language, though. We got to work on that. All right. Moving to, I believe it's at 611, am I right? This is the Master Collective Bargaining Agreement, 2022 to 23. Ron, do you want to?
Yeah, this is just the final act to approve the ratification of the master contract through negotiations. We were able to agree to all the tentative agreements that you have before you with teachers, as well as the salary schedule that was been upgraded. It adds $1,200 to each cell, and plus horizontal and vertical movement as well. So just asking for approval of this agreement.
Any questions for Ron?
I have to go. The athletic supplement matrix and the non-athletic supplemental matrix are labeled 2021-22.
Salary schedule?
Yeah, are they going to roll it? Is that going to change, or is that going to roll it?
Yeah.
The tabs on the bottom.
Yeah.
But they're going to be, they'll be the same percentages rolling?
Yeah, that's the same.
Okay, then I have another question on, when I get to the athletic one, is how does, it says years of experience on those charts. Is that years of experience at 49, or they come in with 10 years of coaching and they're placed, or?
We do place it based on experience coming in with
So
coaching
what
experience.
coming in, it's not
Yeah.
what they're doing for, okay.
Other questions? Well, I want to, first of all, no one's here from the bargaining group, but that's not board, but appreciate the work that everybody did to have in-depth and discussions and thorough dialogue. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Master Collective Bargaining Agreement 2022 through 23. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll let Madam Reeling decide who's going to second that. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I would then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this, please state aye. Aye. And vote accordingly. Those opposed, please state nay. So then you will, Ron, you will reach out to the rest
Yeah.
and
Well,
do
they'll get a summary of the meeting.
Very good.
Are you able to hear Megan? I can't hear her from over here. Is she responding?
She is voting
Not very-
electronically, so
You just don't hear.
I'm assuming that you will get us if she's wanting to interrupt. I'm guessing she's muted.
I hear
So-
her every once in a while.
Okay. All right, so,
Out loud, but it's fine. I'm also voting electronically.
okay. All right, so 612 is the request for approval of the classified personnel raises. Ron, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we're just recommending that we approve a 75% per hour increase for our classified employees. The total cost of this is 5.14 in terms of dollars that we're spending on this raise. I think I've included some information that I don't necessarily know if there's anything else to include. It's that we appreciate our classified employees and want to do as much as possible we can to increase starting salary.
What's the starting?
Well, starting salary, it depends on the position. I don't know, is that included?
I thought I learned that it's on our website, so it depends. Yeah, it depends by position.
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, our 1172 was our lowest, well, not counting crossing guards and
More of a seasonal employee versus
yeah, but our lowest salary is 1172, I think.
which we did raise that base, didn't we, because of COVID?
We did.
To be more
yeah,
competitive?
There was some action taken by the board to raise that starting salary. I can't remember exactly how much.
So our lowest will move up to 12 to 50 then?
Approximately.
50 cents, or is it 75 cents?
Yeah.
So typically what we have done, or I shouldn't say typically, what we've done the last 2 years to try and keep competitive on that base, but not leapfrog folks, and of course it's up to the board, but if we follow what we did the last couple of years, we've taken half of whatever the raise is and moved that to the starting salaries. So whoever was first year this year is going to be, say, 1172 plus 75, whereas that 1172 would go up half of the 75. So they wouldn't be at the same rate. So a second year person would still be behind. That seems like a big deal to folks. If you want to do something different, we're certainly up. That's your call.
So a new employee is not leapfrogging the second year employee?
Correct. Yeah.
It was 1168. 1168, I'm sorry.
Other questions at this time? Okay, I'd like,
Seems low.
It is low.
Yeah, that's not all employees, but that we do have.
I can't hire anybody.
Yeah.
For me. Even my daughter.
And where are we with other districts? Are we pretty close, or are we?
As far as classified?
Yes.
I mean, it's all relative. I mean, I think there's some that we compete and some we're not. I mean, and that's where we have made huge gains in the last 3 years, I can tell you that. It was extremely low 3 years ago, and we have done a really good job of doing as much as we can each year. So I actually wish it was more than 75 cents, but the 75 cents I would say is what I have seen from other districts is a better raise for classified benefits than I've seen what other districts are doing.
Most of these will get benefits too, on top of that salary?
Yeah.
Benefits.
Well,
They're eligible for the partial board pay benefit, so that's about 80% of what.
About 80% of them?
person gets. Yeah.
Now, you did talk about because the health insurance is going to go up, so they're going to get a big hit on health insurance.
some will, some won't, though.
Yeah.
Depends on which option they have.
Yeah, employee only on a full-time person, so over 30 hours, that's 100% paid by, 100% paid for by the board, 80% of it's paid for, so really not much of a difference there. On anyone that chooses a plan with dependents on it, so employee children, employee spouse, or family plan, that cap is 1050. That number didn't change this year, and they're about 80% of that 1050. So that could be a little bigger bump there.
So there's a possibility some of them will be going backwards a little bit, but this 75% sure helps.
Yeah.
Or 75 cents.
Yeah.
The good thing about our health insurance right now is we do have some flexibility in terms of looking at different plans that they can adjust some costs based upon that. Those flexibility. I mean, some districts they have very little flexibility. You take this plan, and we have lots of options within our plan.
Well, I would like to make the motion to approve a 75-cent per hour increase for classified employees. Is there a motion?
That was a motion, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a motion. I mean, is there-
Oh,
Second.
God.
I second.
I'm sorry, yeah, second. I know what I heard, I said in my head.
Yes.
So, seconded. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for the vote then. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please state nay. Motion passes. Okay, the next thing, the next item, 613, it's a first read, but Ron, would you share more?
Yeah, you just have in front of you 3 handbooks from Hayes Middle School, the Learning Center, and the elementaries, all the elementaries to combine for their handbook. I have summarized all the changes, just so you know. And once again, we'll actually, it's the beauty of everything being digital now. We don't have to worry about getting to printers or anything like that. So give you the opportunity to look at the handbook, look through it. If you have more questions, please reach out and we'll try to get those answered for you.
Is this something that we need to approve
No.
later? Okay.
Well, yeah, you'll all come back in July and we'll approve it in July.
Okay.
So this is just the first reading.
Yeah. But I have a summary of anything, if there's anything particularly that you've looked at that jumps out, we could definitely discuss it this evening, or if you look at it in more in depth.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Hey, I have a quick question. The TLC student handbook.
Yes.
The Hayes Middle School student handbook, the grading scale has changed. I saw them both. Looks like it's lowered. Is there, is that something right?
They've made some adjustments, yes.
Can somebody tell me why? Why did we do that?
Well,
Or do you want to?
we talked about it as a district, looking at that, because a lot of times now with scholarships, it's costing our kids, because a 93 cutoff for an A versus a 90, and especially when, so we're not changing the academic rigor, it's just how it computes into a grade, which really impacts GPA and scholarship applications, and when we check statewide, we really are penalizing kids for that, so we've taken it through the site councils and our leadership teams, and site councils were in favor. So this is the only place it's approved. It's not like in policy or anywhere. But I thought you were going to mention that, because I thought we had talked about it as a board too. There's a discrepancy with the Learning Center and the middle school, so we will need to make sure we're all consistent on where the cutoff for, I think, the A- is. But we'll clean that up before we bring it back, but yes, that would be part of the, what you will approve it in the handbook, because that's really what guides it.
Is that grading scale, is it the same at the high school as this, or is it?
It will be.
Okay, good.
So they're all the
It's going to
same?
be, consistent
I think
district-wide.
this is, I think you're absolutely right.
Just like it is now, consistent.
High school comes up with the grading scale, we're going to adjust ours. We didn't do this.
Grading scale.
Yeah.
Grading scales.
It's okay. We'll add it to our admin.
If you want to, it's the rigor of the classroom and what you can do, you can fluctuate that out
Go ahead, Megan.
in the classroom.
I'm hearing you talk about the grading scale, but it's cloudy right now. Are you saying that you're going to unify them all to the 10-point scale that is listed in these handbooks? Or that you're going to export?
Can you summarize to her question?
They'll all, she just wondered, she didn't hear all of that about,
Okay.
because the high school's not there. They will all be the same, Megan, with the 10-point scale.
Okay. Very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
And obviously note, Hayes High Handbook, we will have its first reading in July.
Yeah.
It'll be just a month behind.
Yeah.
I have a question about on December 10th, you sent me a 489 boardmanship handbook. Is there a reason why it's not part of this? Because our board policy says we approve all handbooks.
This is student handbook.
It says students, or does it say all?
We're approving student handbooks tonight.
Not all handbooks of the district, like administrative handbooks, or? Does everybody have a copy of that boardmanship handbook?
I don't even know what you're referring to.
The one from KASB?
Yeah.
No, the one that, I had requested the materials that were given to the new boards at the board orientation, and I got this, it's called the boardmanship, 49 boardmanship handbook.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just
It's not
something
the
I put
same.
together to
Staple.
to mentor, help new board members.
The one that I got, because that's not the same that the others got. Can I get that copy?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll definitely get you whatever. I
That-
think I've already sent it to you, Alan, several times.
I have one, but it's not the one that.
Yeah, I sent it to you, I've sent it to you several times.
Since we're talking about student handbooks, though, let's move on. So that'll be a read only at this point. No vote is required, but if you would see something between now and the next meeting, be getting it to, would that be to you, Ron, and then you disseminate? Okay. So, all right. So 614, I had shared last meeting that we will be voting. This is not for action today, but this is for discussion. At July, we will be voting for the board leadership, which will include the president and the vice president positions. Our board obviously does not have that. Vice president moves to presidency. We vote every year for both. So I had shared that we would spend time at this meeting giving everybody the opportunity to share with them, to share with everybody which position. It could be both or just one of whichever, and then why you would want it, and then that'll be information that we can continue to consider, and then we'll vote at the next. And obviously, if Lori, since she's absent, would have the opportunity to still be included in this, it's just, it would give us time to be able to share, and this was my suggestion based on the conversations that took place based on me getting. And I just don't want another board president to have to go through a first meeting like what I felt like I did. So at this point, if we start with our left, I would say at this, I'll come back to you, Megan, but.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
The 6-month term, the 12-month term, the 18th, so are we going to talk about running it on that January schedule at the next one before we vote? Or are we going to keep it as is?
I mean, that was a request. I'm not, in my opinion, I'm not in favor of that, so I would vote no. I believe very strongly that to have leadership change at the same month that we have new people starting, I think would be detrimental to our overall efficiencies and knowledge base. But, so that was my, I mean, so I guess if that's something you guys wanted to bring forward, the next president.
I know it was discussed,
Are we compliant with the state law?
Yes, we've already discussed that.
State just gave the option.
Yeah. So, but at the left here, I'll start with Kurt. Are you interested in president and or vice president? And can you share a little bit about your thoughts?
No.
On either?
No.
Okay.
Yes,
so I don't think we need to move forward unless you had other commentary.
Nope.
That's quite easy to understand. Okay, Craig?
Yes, on either one, if the board feels like I am up for the position.
Do you want to share any other aspects about qualifications?
Qualifications, I think everybody that is elected to the Board of Education has the qualifications to be the leadership on the board somewhere in their term. I spent 37 years in education, almost 30 years in administration, and the last 2 years as vice president of this board.
Okay. And you've gone through the training.
And I've gone through the training.
I will simply say I will not accept any nomination if my name is moved for either position. So the answer would be no. Ken?
I would be interested in running for vice president, not president at this time, just because I feel I have a lot to learn, and I feel that would be a good position for me to learn and participate in. In my professional life, I'm considered expert in my field, but it's because I train and I learn, and I want to do that first before I try to move up any further.
Okay, good to know. Alan?
I am not interested in either of the positions. I would like to know, and maybe the people who are interested, are they going to be able to fulfill the requirements for trying to be at all the meetings and things like that? If that's within their...
I mean, so meaning that I was not able to fill mine, is that the
No, I'm just
implication?
saying that, they feel like that they can be in attendance to the majority of the meetings?
I would imagine that the fact that we know their attendance, we would all be able to vote accordingly based on that. So I would go to Megan at this point. Do you want to share, Megan?
Can I ask first what Alan said, because I didn't understand him. I could hear his voice, but not the words.
You want me to repeat?
Okay, so
He
can
said no.
somebody share?
He said no.
He said no.
He wasn't interested in any of the positions, and then brought up whoever is selected attending or being in attendance. Does that summarize it?
Very good.
Okay. No, I'm not interested in an office at this time myself. I just changed professions, and so I feel like that's enough learning. But I fully intend to serve as a state, and I hope that at some point I do feel like things level out.
Okay. we'll give Lori her opportunity to share at the next meeting. That'll be, we'll pretty much, we won't even vote on agenda at that point. We'll go straight into leadership, and then the gavel moves and the next person will deal with the agenda, correct?
Well,
Isn't that how that?
Yeah, it could be either way. Yeah.
I was thinking I started the meeting after we voted.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right.
Could we just touch base a little bit more on what the law says? What is
Why
the
don't you
majority
ask-
of the
Let's ask
districts?
Bill, our lawyer.
What do a majority of the districts?
Yeah.
That's not a legal question.
Right. Well, I mean, we do a lot of things where we say, okay, what do the majority of the districts do? January or July?
I read what the School Board Association, they didn't put a percentage on it. They were just supportive of giving each district the option.
When the law changed, they did that.
I think actually KSB did not recommend the switch to January, so I don't think they recommended it.
Where'd it come from?
It came from the legislature. It was.
The state law changed.
So it came from.
They moved
When the
from
vote changed.
Non-educational people?
No.
So,
Got
okay.
it.
It's the same process they had before, but they changed the time from April to November.
I would not support going to January.
I got it.
I mean, but to answer, I do believe that, you bring up the aspect of, will people be in attendance? We know after 6 months if somebody's going to be in attendance or not. But starting in January, if we voted somebody newly elected, we would not have that knowledge. So I could give other reasons for why I would not be in support. But if that is, you are welcome to make that a motion at a future meeting to discuss. So, or talk to the next president. So at this point, I want to make sure I'm going into executive session for the right reason, Bill. So let me make sure. I will make a motion that we go into executive session for, which one is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it,
It's 7.4 now.
Do with personnel.
which one's personnel? Sorry, for matters relating to employee, no, that's
No,
negotiations.
number one.
Number one. So I move that we go into motion to go into executive session for personnel matters for non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual. At that point, I would like to request that we have all board members and our legal counsel in the room with the option to get either one or more administrators as needed.
I would like to make a request that we all attend from the beginning.
Since I'm amending that, I guess you guys can decide if it passes or not. I'd like to have that motion be that all board, legal counsel, and administration be part of that meeting. Would I have a second?
That's not the motion that was made.
I just amended it.
You're making an amendment to
Yeah.
the motion? So we're voting
Well,
on
I
it?
hadn't finished, actually. It wasn't seconded, so I had to
I
write.
understand, okay.
So,
What did we decide earlier is to have an executive
well, I'm
session?
making the motion now, so it really, at this point, I'm making the motion to include them. So she seconds?
Yeah.
So, I guess,
Discussion?
it's been seconded. I'd like to call for a vote. Is that, all those in
Can we have
favor?
discussion?
I made the motion, she seconded, didn't she?
Yeah, they're
Megan?
asking for
Yeah.
discussion.
Oh, discussion, please.
Since this is personnel and it's, I don't know why we can't go ahead and talk as a board for 10 minutes and then invite the rest of the team in, or the ones that we feel like are necessary. It's just usually when it comes to personnel issues, we have an opportunity to talk about it.
Duly noted.
Well, the reason that we wouldn't do that is that Tammy made the motion to include them. So
I can't hear her.
that is the motion, and I would support talking about salaries while they're in the room.
She just second the motion you have on the table.
Transparent, and if
That's what we're talking about, because this is not about evaluations, we've had that discussion before.
Since we're talking about salaries, that's why she supports all administration. Okay.
Their life, and they should be in on the conversation. Or at least hear what we have to say about them.
Okay. All right, may I go ahead and call for the vote? All those in favor of that motion, please state aye.
Motion is the amendment?
The motion, I never had it seconded, so the motion was basically to go in executive session with board, legal counsel, and all administration. And that's what she seconded.
Individuals with the whole group? Okay.
Okay? Okay. So, it's been seconded, we've had discussion. I'd like to call the vote then. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed state nay.
Nay.
So if it's 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2, we can still proceed. Okay. I'm assuming Megan, since she seconded, she did. Okay.
return time.
What?
Yeah, I need a time.
Is 20 minutes sufficient?
We can start
That'd be
soon.
plenty.
I would assume.
We don't need our break either, do we? Okay, since we had an early one. So 20 minutes, so that would be 16.
You mean the motion?
Yeah, 10:16. So,
don't
all
think
right,
we'll
we're in
clarify that.
executive session as of
I won't include that.
when the crowd leaves. one last point of action that we have is, and I'll make the motion to approve a 3.29% increase for directors and administrators. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, because we've had our discussion, is there any other discussion
I do.
publicly? Yes.
So administration, teachers,
Open session?
yeah. Teachers, administrators are all at that 3.29.
Yes.
It's all the same percent.
Yes.
And where we convened in open session, if people came back and said.
Yes.
Yes. Any other further discussion, question, clarification?
Madam, are we?
Did you,
first-
Megan, did you hear the motion?
I did hear the motion. Who seconded it?
Okay,
These two
Ken.
were twins.
Let's call-
Ken, we're going with Ken.
I call for the vote.
Okay. All those in favor of this, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please state nay.
Nay.
Okay, all right. It passes 5-1. And at this point.
Madam President,
Yes,
I move that we adjourn.
I second it. All right. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.